Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Gaowu, Devour the Reborn and Gain Magical Powers of Destiny. Chapter 81. Everyone in the Blood God clan who was filled with joy when they saw the arrival of the Blood Ancestor suddenly changed their expressions when they saw the man with the gun. The god of war of Daxia, Zhou Wuyuan. Some humans may not recognize this name, but among the Blood God clan, absolutely no one knows that it is famous. That was the existence that once held a spear and led the Blood Demon army into the Blood God realm. In the Blood God realm, Zhou Wuyuan's name is definitely a terrifying demon who can stop children from crying. Although they had absolute confidence in the Blood Ancestor, Zhou Wuyuan's reputation was so great that they couldn't help but panic. In the endless void, Zhou Wuyuan stood with a gun, and the terrifying evil aura around him was like substance, firmly blocking the Blood God clan's retreat. You alone can't stop me. His blood-colored expression remained unchanged. He looked at Zhou Wuyuan's empty back, and said with a faint smile. Are the other strong men from the human race being restrained by the heavenly race at this time? I have countless armies and strong men here. What can you do to stop me? After finishing his words, he looked in the direction of Daxia and said regretfully. Although the plan failed, it doesn't matter. When I lead my army back to the battlefield, you humans will still have to pay the price in blood. A sneak attack on the rear of the human race is a plan with the least loss and the greatest profit. It can destroy the Great Shot territory without any bloodshed. However, although the plan failed, the advantage still lies with the Blood God clan. Just waiting to return to the battlefield of all races, Daxia's dilemma is still not solved. When the Heavenly Clan and the Blood God clan join forces, Daxia will still suffer heavy losses. Daxia territory Guan Wenshan and others' expressions changed slightly when they heard this. As the Blood Ancestor said, although the immediate crisis has been overcome, what about the front line? It will take another day for the support from the spiritual realm to arrive. In this day, the human race does not know how many people will die. You are wrong. In the void passage, a slight smile appeared on Zhou Wuyuan's face. With so many people from your Blood God clan, plus your Blood Ancestor, I am really no match for you. But who said I came to fight with you? The Blood Ancestor's expression remained unchanged, but his heart suddenly thumped. This time, in order to completely capture the Great Shot territory, the Blood God clan sent a large number of strong men, and even 30% of the troops stationed on the battlefield were mobilized. If something unexpected happens to them, the frontline battlefield will be in trouble. However, no matter how strong Zhou Wuyuan is, he is only one person. How can he stop the Blood God clan army? It's really a good method to use the secret treasure of the Blood Ancestor to open the void passage and cross plains to sneak attack on the back of my Daxia territory. Zhou Wuyuan's aura surged, and the void around him was distorting. He sighed in fear. Fortunately, your plan did not succeed, otherwise Daxia, would probably be in ruins. But I didn't expect that we would be a blessing in disguise this time. Zhou Wuyuan looked at the void passage in front of him and the endless nothingness outside the passage, and couldn't help but laugh. Being able to block 50% of your Blood God clan's power in such an environment is a God-given opportunity. I alone can't stop you all, but nothingness can. Upon hearing this, the Blood Ancestor's expression suddenly changed. Kill him. Boom. Without any nonsense, Blood Ancestor's body was filled with waves of blood, and the terrifying aura went straight towards Zhou Wuyuan. Ha ha ha, it's too late. Zhou Wuyuan laughed loudly, and the magical power he had been secretly building suddenly exploded. Yakuza. Boom. The spear in Zhou Wuyuan's hand seemed to come alive at this moment, and a giant dragon hundreds of feet tall suddenly appeared in the void. Hold head high. The dragon roared, and the monstrous gunfire caused the passage to collapse on a large scale. Break! Zhou Wuyuan shouted sharply, and the giant dragon's ferocious head bit hard into the void passage that was established. Click! The void passage established with the Blood God monument was originally very stable, and even Zhou Wuyuan could not break it. But coincidentally, there was a Blood God monument that closed the internal space, which caused the passage to be unstable. Now Zhou Wuyuan was using his great supernatural power to forcibly block it. In just an instant, the void passage suddenly collapsed. The Blood Ancestor's face was extremely gloomy, but at this time he could no longer attack Zhou Wuyuan. In the final analysis, The passage established by the blood god monument is the connection between the internal spaces of the three divine monuments. Using a sacred monument as a guide, a passage is established in the void to attract people. But what will happen if this internal channel collapses? Everyone in the blood god clan will be swallowed up by nothingness. Nothingness, that is the existence outside of space, has no up and down, no left and right, no north, south, east or west. There is no danger in the void, but the sense of directionlessness will make people lose themselves forever. But now that the void channel collapsed, half of the blood god clan's entire strength was about to fall into nothingness, and the blood ancestor had no time to trouble Zhou Wuyuan. At this time, the blood ancestor was also anxious, and mobilized all the power in his body to turn into a boundless sea of blood, forcibly surrounding all the people of the blood god clan. This will greatly reduce the strength of the blood ancestor, but it will ensure that the clan members will gather together and not be lost in nothingness one by one. Blood ancestor, have a pleasant journey. Zhou Wuyuan, who had already evacuated early, couldn't help but chuckled as he looked at the blood ancestors who had fallen into nothingness. These days, Daxia is under great pressure because of the sudden arrival of the celestial clan. But now, this crisis has been resolved. More than 50% of the blood god clan's strength fell into nothingness, and the human race on the front line could show off their skills. Of course, it is unrealistic to expect the power of nothingness to completely lose a strong man like the blood ancestor, but it is enough to buy enough time for the human race. As long as one day passes and the support from the spiritual realm arrives, the battlefield situation will change instantly. As for the blood ancestor and others, they should be floating in nothingness for quite some time. The crisis was completely resolved, and everyone in the school couldn't help but cheer. This time the blood god clan's plan can be said to be shooting itself in the foot. Not only did the plan fail, but the human race also found a way to break the situation. It can be foreseen that it will not be long before the human race counterattacks. And at the same time, after Zhou Wuyuan blocked the passage and completely destroyed the blood god clan's plan, the destiny stone deep in Xuan's mind shook. The event of the sorrow of 10,000 clans ends. Control the blood god monument, comprehend the immortal body, the blood god clan's plan failed, save many talented students in the school, and add many powerful people to the future of the human race. 2. Due to the chain reaction, the blood god clan lost a large number of strong men on the frontline battlefield, indirectly saving many Daxia troops who should have died. Perfectly changing the future direction of the human race, greatly enhancing the strength, destiny and morale of the human race. Comprehensive evaluation. The major event has been successfully changed, and the magical power of destiny, wonderful hands, has been obtained once. Due to various good chain reactions, the impact of the event exceeded its own level, and I got the forced designation, expert once. The series of changes in the destiny stone made Xuan stunned. The changes in this incident are much more complicated than the last time, and their impact is more significant. Moreover, after this event was changed, no extra destiny points were given, but instead it was a forced designation effect. Forcibly assigning a master to be empty once. Xuan's heart beat wildly. What a new magical power of destiny. A person whose understanding is so strong that it is terrifying. So what type of magical power will this new destiny power be? Thinking of this, Xuan quickly looked at his newly acquired magical power. Master Kongkong. The black hand that penetrates into destiny can steal the fortune of heaven and the fruits of earth. Even the opponent's talent, perception, and luck can be used by oneself. Note: destiny is unpredictable. If you open Miaosho empty-handedly, you will randomly steal something owned by the other party. Seeing the effect of the new destiny power, Xuan was shocked even though he was prepared. Magical skill. This is an absolute magical skill, a magical skill that is even more terrifying than the one whose understanding is incredible. The incredible power of understanding allows you to see through the essence of all things in an instant, so that you can use it for me. But the effect of the empty hand is extremely overbearing. Stealing the fortune of heaven, the fruits of earth, even talents that do not belong to the human race, can be transformed into their own things. Moreover, the scope of this theft is too wide. Bloodline, talent, perception, and even the opponent's combat experience. For example, now Xuan can even directly steal Ji Yuli's state of mind, thus directly having an invincible environment. Moreover, the things stolen by this magical power have no racial restrictions. Thinking of this, Shuan felt a little dizzy. Why are humans weak? That's because the human race does not have the innate talents, physique, and bloodline of all races. But what if the human race can cultivate their state of mind and obtain a physique unique to all races? That can no longer be explained by the words, unparalleled talent. But a real monster, an existence that can conquer everything. Of course, there is no reason why this skill is so strong, but its flaws are also obvious. That means you can't be sure what you stole. Maybe you are lucky and can get what you want in one go. But if you are unlucky and have a bad face, you don't know how many times it will take. This is a magical skill with extremely clear advantages and disadvantages. But now, because of the perfect change of events, the stone carving of destiny has given a special effect. Forced designation. This means that Shuan has a master Kongkong who can steal things from the opponent with extreme accuracy. It's a big profit this time. Shuan's heart was beating fiercely, and the joy in his eyes was clearly visible. Looking at the stone carvings of destiny at this time, huge changes have already occurred. Magical power of destiny. Comprehension is against the sky, 30,000. Empty hands, 30,000 can be forcibly designated once. Fate value, 14,000. After a brief look, Shuan nodded with satisfaction. After killing those blood gods, his destiny value was 44,000. After using comprehension defying heaven once, he still had 14,000 destiny value. 10,000, which means there are still another 16,000 destiny points, and you can use it again. And there is also a special hand that can be forcibly designated. It seems that I want to find a foreign monster to try. Shuan took stock of his gains this time, and the smile on his face never broke. The Blood God clan's secret treasure body realm Blood God monument, the enlightened immortal body of the Blood God, new destiny powers, extra destiny value. Not to mention what happened to Daxia, Shuan was making a lot of money this time. Not only that, as his strength increases, he will encounter more alien races, and the opponents will become stronger. And this also means that the speed at which he obtains destiny points will be greatly increased. By then, his strength will skyrocket. 5 years is enough. Shuan clenched his fist, feeling the surging power in his body, with a look of confidence in his eyes. With him here, the human race will definitely not be exterminated in 5 years. And just when Shuan was immersed in his own world, the blood gods in the Great Sha territory panicked. The void passage collapsed and they couldn't go back. Not to mention them, even the blood ancestor couldn't go back. What should they do? This is the hinterland of the human race. If they can't escape, they can only wait to die. Gaowu, what are you waiting for? Enter the void, and I will guide you. At this moment, in the endless void after the shattered space, the angry shouts of the blood ancestor rang out. Facing the stupid Gaowu, the blood ancestor wished he could just crush him to death. If the opponent's bloodline hadn't returned to his ancestors, he wouldn't have bothered to care about Gaowu's life and death. Yes, there is still a way to survive. The blood ancestor is waiting for us in the void. My blood god eyes and the blood god arms of the blood ancestor come from the same source. We can find the blood ancestor. The panicked Gaowu seemed to have grasped the last straw of drowning, and hurriedly shouted. Follow me into the void. As soon as the words fell, these blood gods, who had laughed arrogantly not long ago, fled in a hurry like defeated dogs. However, the human race will not let them go easily. Want to run? Stop them. Guan Wenshan laughed loudly, and his fists fell hard with bright light. When the powerful human beings saw this, they also beat up the drowned dog, and fought away with grins. This time, many people from the Blood God clan came, and their strength was basically the same as that of Daxia. But now everyone is running away in a hurry, unable to organize the force to fight back. Others can be spared, but Gaowu must die. Don't get involved with others and kill Gaowu. Guan Wenshan shouted loudly and went straight to Gaowu without caring about the other alien races. Such a good opportunity. If you don't kill Gaowu, will you just sit back and watch the rise of another blood ancestor? The other blood gods can live, but Gaowu must die. After the words fell, other human races also understood the importance of this. One by one, they abandoned the enemies around them and killed towards Gaowu. Protect him. If Gaowu dies, kill the bloodline of and others. The angry shouts of the Blood Ancestor rang out in the void, which made everyone in the Blood God clan's eyes turn red. Sir, let's go. The fleeing Blood Gods were all going crazy at this time. One by one, they risked their lives to stand in front of the powerful human beings. Even if they died, they had to stop the enemies in front of them. They can die, but nothing will happen to the bloodline left by the Blood God clan themselves. For a moment, the people of the Blood God clan attacked like crazy, blocking the pursuit of the human race. But this is not enough. There is a strong human race that no one can stop. Hey, Gaowu, be kind to my bloodline and let's go. A sad look flashed in Mordor's eyes. He hit Gaowu behind with a palm, and he faced Guan Wenshan, who was coming to kill him. He is very powerful and has a high status in the Blood God clan, but obviously, Gaowu is more important. This is equivalent to giving up his chance of escape to Gaowu. The war broke out, and terrifying fluctuations shook the world. Shuan, who was watching from a distance, asked doubtfully. Is that Gaowu important? Why must he be killed? Lin Chengyuan, who was left to protect Shuan, Ji Yuli and other students, heard this and explained. Because Gaowu's potential is too strong. If he is allowed to grow up, he will be even more terrifying than the Blood Ancestor. Shuan and others looked over curiously. I heard that there was only one person in the Blood God clan back then, and he was known as the Blood God. He was born in the endless void. His strength was terrifying and powerful. He once dominated all races and was unstoppable. But he traveled throughout the world and found that all races had their own tribesmen, but he was alone and gradually felt lonely. So the Blood God opened up the Blood God realm and collapsed into the new world. His soul became the way of heaven, and his bloodline became a clan. After speaking, Lin Chengyuan smiled and shook his head. This is just a legend. No one knows whether it is true or not, but the Blood God clan does have a bloodline that returns to its ancestors. Just like the Blood Ancestor, after his bloodline returned to his ancestors, he obtained the Blood God arms. His arms have shocking power, and he can shake Taoist weapons with his bare hands. He is indestructible and powerful. Just this one person has already given Daxia a lot of headaches, but now another one appears. Lin Chengyuan looked at the fleeing Gaowu with eyes filled with murderous intent. Gaoru's bloodline has also returned to its ancestors, and it also has the Blood God eyes that are more powerful than the Blood God arms. The Blood God's eyes were much more powerful than his arms. If they were allowed to grow, it would be a disaster. So, others can live, but he must die. Everyone present was amazed when they heard this, and their eyes suddenly changed when they looked at Gaowu. Such a monster must not be allowed to grow. Different from the behavior of the people present, Shuan's eyes lit up when he looked at Gaowu. It seems that the monster he is looking for is here. Blood God, Hitomi. Shuan licked his dry lips and slowly stretched out his palm, with an irrepressible smile on his lips. That's mine. The melee between the human race and the Blood God race caused a large-scale void to collapse. In order to save Gaowu, the Blood Ancestor in the endless void did not hesitate to spend a lot of mana to tear open the void and extradite Gaowu. Melee. The human race has a strong desire to kill Gaowu, and the people of the Blood God clan are also frantically fighting for their own blood. The strength of the two sides is evenly matched, it depends on which side will show flaws first. In the battlefield, all the department heads of the school were working hard, and even Yi Yongfang, who had always kept a low profile, was covered in blood at this time. But the person he faced was Zhan Yi. The crisis on the front line has been resolved, and the plan has failed again. My Yi family can no longer stay in Daxia City. Think of a way quickly. After Da Sha Tong takes action, neither my Yi family nor your Blood God sect can escape. Yi Yongfang had a panic look in his eyes and spoke quickly through a voice transmission in secret. For the sake of profit and more resources, the Yi family did a lot of work for the Blood God clan. Although they did it very secretly, Daxia and the Academy must know. In the past, the reason why the Yi family was confident was because the Blood God clan had always had the upper hand and they had been waiting in secret. Waiting for the Great Shot territory to undergo great changes, waiting for the Great Shot territory to have a new owner. At that time, the Yi family will have made a contribution to serving the dragon, and their status will be far higher than it is now. No one knew how excited Yi Yongfang was when the Void Passage came and saw the army of the Endless Blood Gods. He almost couldn't help but reverse it directly, but no one expected the reversal to happen so quickly. The Blood God clan, which clearly had an absolute advantage, was completely defeated in the blink of an eye. But the Blood God clan can escape, but the Yi family cannot. At this time, Yi Yongfang was really panicked. Don't panic, wait quietly at home, someone will come to rescue you. Zhan Yi glanced at Yi Yongfang coldly and said calmly. No one knew whether what he said was true or false, but these words also gave Yi Yongfang a shot of cardiotonic, temporarily stabilizing him. Use all your strength to hurt me. Zhan Yi didn't care at all about the life and death of the Yi family. After his eyes surveyed the entire scene, a vague struggle appeared on his face, and then he said coldly. Good. Yi Yongfang didn't dare to ask any questions at this time. His aura exploded and he punched Zhan Yi, who deliberately exposed his flaws. Puff. Zhan Yi forced out a mouthful of blood and flew away, landing directly next to Gaowu. Without hesitation, with a firm look in his eyes, he grabbed Gaowu and the two of them fell directly into nothingness. Sir, let's go. In just a moment, Gaowu was led into nothingness by Zhan Yi. This scene happened too fast, beyond everyone's expectations. Zhan Yi. Guan Wenshan roared in disbelief. You are looking for death. Even Lin Chengyuan, who had never played before, was stunned for a moment, and then his face was full of anger. Today, Gaowu was supposed to die, but Zhan Yi actually saved him. Who is Gaowu? That is an atavist whose potential is even more terrifying than the blood ancestor. If the tiger returns to the mountains, Daxia and the human race will face a formidable enemy in the future. Ha ha ha, Zhan Yi, you have made a great contribution. When you return to the Blood God clan, I will make you a general of the Blood clan. Gaowu, who had narrowly escaped death, couldn't help but laugh loudly. He looked at the human race present with cold eyes. You are all waiting for me. When I come back again, I want your human race to be littered with corpses. Zhan Yi grabbed the back of Gaoyu's neck. If he wanted to kill Gaowu, it would be like squeezing an ant to death. There was a struggle in his eyes, and finally he slowly let go of his hand. Seeing Gaowu slowly falling into darkness, the strong men of the human race were furious. And at the same time, Shu closed his eyes slightly, slowly raised his palms, and murmured in his heart. The wonderful hand is empty. Laugh. The next moment, Shu felt as if he had lost weight, his soul floating above the 9 heavens. His eyes were locked on Gaowu, and endless light appeared on Gaowu's body. In that light, all of Gaowu's experiences from his birth to the present were flashing by at extremely fast speeds like a slideshow. These flickering lights are everything Gaowu has, and there are strengths and weaknesses in them. The most dazzling light was the blood-red light emitting from Gaowu's pupils in a dark space. Got you, Shu seemed to murmur unconsciously, and slowly stretched out his palm. That palm seemed to have jumped the boundaries of time and crossed the barriers of space, holding the most brilliant bloody light with great precision. Boom! In an instant, as if a thunderbolt fell, Shuan's floating soul was driven back into his body. His consciousness was in a trance for a moment, and he slowly opened his eyes. A bright and deep blood-colored light quietly bloomed from the bottom of his eyes. At the same time, Gaowu, who was laughing loudly, slowly fell into the boundless darkness. Gaowu, lock me with the blood god eyes, and I will guide you in the direction. A huge voice sounded from the deep void. At the same time, a terrifying and majestic fluctuation that only the Blood God clan could feel spread from the depths of nothingness. This fluctuation is so slight that even the Blood God clan with the purest bloodline cannot catch it. But the Blood God eyes can. Because the source of the fluctuations comes from the Blood God's arms, there is a special connection between him and the Blood God's pupils. Okay. Gaowu smiled confidently, his eyes suddenly opened wide and looked into nothingness. But in the next moment, his expression changed. No response. Blood God eyes. Gaowu shouted angrily, his blood flowed in his body, and his eyes widened even more. Nothingness and darkness, no wind and no light, no change at all. What's going on? My Blood God eyes. Gaowu panicked, countless times more panicked than before. Before obtaining the Blood God eyes, he was just an unknown member of the Blood God clan. It was only after his bloodline returned to his ancestors that he became the proud son of the Blood God clan. If something unexpected happens to the Blood God pupil, he will be doomed. Come out the Blood God eyes. Gaowu roared hysterically, trying to wake up his pupils. But somehow, it was as if there was a mysterious and terrifying force that cut off a section of his fate. The blood god eye that he deserved was stolen. This feeling came out of nowhere, but it was so real that Gaowu thought he was hallucinating. Have you really obtained the blood god eyes? No, no, that's mine. That should be mine. Who is it? Come out. Give it back to me. That's my thing. Gaowu collapsed and roared loudly. In the endless nothingness, the roar was full of fear. It was the panic of losing the blood god eye, and also the chill of facing that terrifying unknown method. Grown-ups. Looking at the collapsed Gaowu, Zanyi shouted in confusion. He didn't understand what Gaowu was doing. Shouldn't the most important thing to do now be to lock the coordinates of the blood ancestor and rush to join them? Gaowu, what are you waiting for? At this time, in the depths of nothingness, the urging voice of the blood ancestor sounded again. In this boundless nothingness, even the blood ancestor cannot hold on for long even if he keeps forcibly maintaining his original burst. Lord Blood Ancestor, I was injured, and the blood god eyes are temporarily disabled. Hearing the voice of the blood ancestor, Gaowu calmed down and spoke hurriedly. Yes, that must be the case. He was injured in the battle just now, and the blood god eyes will recover as long as the injury heals. Injury invalidated. The blood ancestor on the other side now had doubts in his eyes. The blood god pupil obtained by returning to the ancestors of the bloodline is equivalent to one's own innate magical power. Even if there is not a single bit of energy in the body, it does not prevent him from using the blood god eyes. What kind of injury could cause the innate magical power to become ineffective? After pondering for a moment, the blood ancestor took a deep breath, looked at the blood clan army he was protecting behind him, and said, Shui Yan, please protect the others from getting separated in the void. I will pick up Gaowu. When Venerable Blood Flame heard this, he was immediately shocked and said, Lord Blood Ancestor, this void has no definition of space or time. It's no surprise that you can travel thousands of miles away with one step. If we get separated in this void, it will be difficult to reunite. With the blood ancestor's strength, he could still find his way back after spending some time. But Venerable Blood Flame doesn't have this ability. He can tear apart nothingness with countless armies. If the blood ancestor cannot come back from this journey, then they and others will have no choice but to wait for death. At most, he would abandon these people and take a few strong men to find the exit of the collapse, but the loss would be too great. Gaowu is the hope of the Blood God clan and cannot be lost. Just do your best. After finding Gaowu, I will come find you. Without saying anything, the blood ancestor took a step forward and his figure completely disappeared into the darkness. Venerable Shuiyan sighed upon seeing this. He understood that in the blood ancestor's heart, he and the others together were not as important as Roha. Today's choices can prove this. In the endless darkness of nothingness, there is no concept of time. The blood ancestor relies on his super blood perception and follows the guidance in the dark, constantly advancing rapidly in the void. 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, or 100 years. No one can figure it out clearly. The loneliness filled with darkness above, below, left and right is enough to drive people crazy. I don't know how long it took, but the blood ancestor finally found Gaowu and Zanyi in the darkness. Blood ancestor. Gaowu quickly stepped forward, his face full of excitement of survival. Zanyi said nothing and followed Gaowu with his head lowered. Release your blood god eyes. The first time they met, the blood ancestor's face showed no joy, instead it was as gloomy as water. He didn't even feel the slightest trace of the blood god's origin in Gaowu's body. Gaowu's face showed panic. He tried his best to circulate the blood power in his body, but his pupils did not change at all. The blood ancestor took a deep breath and suppressed the murderous intention in his heart. His palm stretched out and covered Gaowu's heavenly spirit. With a soft drink, the blood ancestor's palm burst into endless light, his eyes fixed on the pictures flashing in the light. Inside are some fragments of memories in Gaowu's mind. The blood ancestor wanted to see what happened to make Gaowu's blood god eyes ineffective. But suddenly, boom, in Gaowu's memory, a terrifying huge palm seemed to be able to crush the world, falling with boundless power. Puff! The blood ancestor looked horrified and spat out a mouthful of blood. Facing that mysterious power, even he couldn't resist it at all. This was because he disconnected quickly, otherwise the big hand would crush his protruding consciousness. The power of law. No, it's still above the law. The blood ancestor's face was uncertain, and his body was shaking uncontrollably. He was already very strong, and was gradually getting involved with the power of the law, but because of this, he understood the terror of the power just now. Lord Blood Ancestor, Gaowu shouted with hope. He wanted to know what was going on. However, boom, Gaowu didn't wait for his answer, and his whole body exploded. A small god realm without the blood god eyes has no value. What's more, for this waste, Shui Ancestor abandoned Shui Yan and others, spending a lot of time. I don't know how long it will take to find them. The most important thing is that at this time, the Blood God clan and the human race are competing for time to see which clan's strong man will return faster. Obviously, for the sake of Gaowu, he didn't have time to take everyone back. In this battle, an atavist was lost. More than 50% of the Blood God clan's power was trapped in the void, and he was injured because of it. The success fell short, and the defeat was a complete defeat. Who are you? Suppressing the irritability in his heart, the Blood Ancestor looked at Zhang Yi. At this time, Zhang Yi was cautious and did not dare to say a word. Following Gaowu to nothingness was originally a bold gamble for him. Betting that Gaowu would rise to power in the future and become the new Blood Ancestor, he would take this opportunity to completely take root in the Blood God clan. Unexpectedly, Gaowu, a talented Blood God clan, died in nothingness before he could return. Now there is only one way before Zhang Yi, follow the Blood Ancestor. Sir, my name is Zhang Yi, and I am the leader of the Daxia Blood God sect. Zhang Yi kept his posture very low and said with a slight bow. The Blood God clan, that thing created by the blood flame. The Blood Ancestor nodded, his scrutinizing eyes falling on Zhang Yi. Why are you trying to save Gaowu at all costs? As a human race, shouldn't we completely kill such a talented alien race? How Gaowu escaped was perceived by the Blood Ancestor with his own eyes, which is why he did not kill Zhang Yi directly. And another point, this Zhang Yi is very strong. I have completely betrayed the human race. The human race has no place for me. Follow Lord Gaowu. When Lord Gaowu takes over, I will become a noble of the Blood God clan. Zhang Yi said with a chuckle, not hiding his thoughts at all. The Blood Ancestor stared at Zhang Yi for a long time, and finally nodded with a faint smile. Interesting. It's a pity to kill someone in such a state. Follow me from now on. Although it was their first meeting and they were still from the human race, the Blood Ancestor did not doubt Zhang Yi's words too much. It is impossible for the human race to want such a person if he can forcefully save Gaowu with the human race around him. It is equivalent to a human race's peerless genius who will become the king of humans in the future, being saved by the Blood God clan in the blood world. Blood Ancestor would definitely kill such a person with his own hands. Without saying anything else, the Blood Ancestor turned around and walked towards the depths of nothingness. Zhang Yi lowered his head with a faint smile on his lips and followed quickly. And at the same time, Shuan in the academy is looking at the world from a new perspective. The power of the Blood God pupil gave him the first leap in strength and combat power. Daxia, a school of all races. As Gaowu left, the powerful human beings became furious one by one. Such a good opportunity actually allowed Gaowu to run away, and it was the human race who helped. They can already foresee that another Blood Ancestor is rising rapidly, and the human race will have another great enemy. Zhang Yi, what on earth does he want to do? Guan Wenshan's face was as gloomy as water, and his brows were knitted together tightly. Zhang Yi was also a genius of the human race back then, and his talent was exactly the same as that of Lin Chengyuan, Ji Yuli and others. In addition, Zhang Yi is the earliest version of the perfect series, and his strength is so terrifying that no one knows what level the opponent has reached. If such a character could enter the battlefield, he would definitely be as strong as Zhou Wuyuan. But it is a pity that Zhang Yi returned from Lintian territory a few years ago and suddenly changed his temperament. Not only did he betray the human race, he also joined the Blood God clan and became the leader. Later, Daxia sent people to Lintian territory to investigate, but did not get much information. I just heard that Zhang Yi seemed to have come into contact with people from the demon clan, and there were quite a few conflicts. Since then, Zan Yi disappeared for a while, and when he reappeared, he was already the leader of the Blood God sect. But even so, no one believes that Zan Yi will betray the human race, and this is also the case. After Zan Yi became the leader of the Blood God sect, although the Blood God sect developed extremely rapidly, there were much less turmoil in Daxia. Guan Wenshan even acquiesced that some human races would contact the Blood God cult in order to have a thorough understanding of the internal situation in Daxia. In general, after Zan Yi became the leader of the Blood God sect, the advantages outweighed the disadvantages for Daxia. This also made Guan Wenshan and others firmly believe that Zan Yi never betrayed the human race, but just used another way to help the human race. But what happened today overturned all their guesses. Zan Yi actually saved Gaowu. No matter what Zan Yi has done before, they are willing to believe it, but no one can forgive this. Ha ha ha, thank you so much, otherwise we, the Blood God clan, would have lost one of our ancestors. Mordor's clothes were stained with blood and he was very embarrassed, but at this time he laughed out loud, and the laughter was full of ridicule. Kill. Guan Wenshan's face turned livid, he shouted and rushed away. When he passed Yi Yongfang, his cold eyes swept across him, as if he were looking at a dead person. Zan Yi was able to suddenly appear in front of Gaowu, and Yi Yongfang's palm was also indispensable. Yi Yongfang felt cold in his heart and was about to explain, but Guan Wenshan left without even looking at him. The war broke out again, but these remaining blood gods were far from being the opponents of the human race, and it was only a matter of time before they were exterminated. You stay where you are, I'll kill some aliens. Lin Chengyuan, who had been holding back his anger, his sword intent was overwhelming, and he stepped out of a god-level Blood God clan and exploded. Let's go Xuan, the blood essence of the Blood God clan is a good treasure, these are all credits. As soon as Lin Chengyuan left, Ji Yuli reminded him with a sinister smile, and then left quickly, heading straight for the dead blood gods. Every drop of the essence and blood in these aliens' bodies is valuable. Good. Xuan smiled and nodded, looking up at the battlefield in the distance. A little scarlet flashed through his eyes, and the world in front of him suddenly changed. He can effortlessly see scenes thousands of meters away, and can even see the two warring parties, the ferocious expressions on their faces, and even the smallest hairs. The wind between heaven and earth seemed to have a trajectory in his eyes at this time. Those subtle lines are different from the laws that open up understanding and defy the heavens, but are extremely clear. It's like I used to be a blind man with 1000 degrees of myopia, but now I suddenly have clairvoyance. And this is just the simplest change brought about by the blood god eyes. This kind of clarity can be even stronger. Xuan's eyes were so bright that no one could see the scarlet red eyes. He stepped lightly, although he walked very slowly, his speed was astonishingly fast. That means that every step he takes steps on the path of the wind. He just moves forward with the flow of the wind, and he already appears in the distance after taking one step. Kill. On the edge of the battlefield, the Blood God clan, who had just won the bone forging stage at the martial arts stage, were now in despair. The strong men of the human race had no one to pay attention to them, but they understood that it was only a matter of time before they died. For a time, everyone with death intentions began to look for those weak human races, preparing to pull a few to support them before death. By chance, Xuan, who was coming on the wind, fell into the sight of a Blood God clan in the bone forging realm. The genius of the human race. Ha ha ha, go to hell. The Blood God clan in the bone forging realm saw Xuan and punched him with murderous intent on his face. Surrounded by majestic energy and blood, the power of this punch far exceeds the limit that can be achieved in the blood-melting realm. Although these people are already homeless dogs, it cannot be denied that they are all the elites of the Blood God clan. A few minutes ago, Xuan would have been no match for this person, but now. Boom! With a powerful punch, Xuan turned his head slightly and easily dodged it. Luck doesn't always come. The Blood God clan laughed ferociously and swung out both fists so fast that afterimages even appeared. But a scene that horrified him appeared. Xuan is like a butterfly in the storm. Every blow can severely damage him, but his body can always dodge at the critical moment. Even though the speed of the Blood God clan was astonishing, it could not hurt Xuan at all. How can it be? The Blood God clan was horrified. Even if they were the genius of the human race, they shouldn't be so strong in the blood-dissolving realm. He gritted his teeth secretly, his energy and blood surged crazily around his body, and he blasted away as fast as possible. You are too slow. Shuan chuckled softly, and the scarlet color in his eyes suddenly brightened. Whoosh! In this moment, everything in the world slowed down before Shuan's eyes. That quick punch seemed to be in slow motion, looking ridiculous. The first pupil technique of the blood god pupil is still. This is not a way to affect time, but to make everything in front of you slow down until it finally stops. Of course, Shuan will also be affected by this pupil technique, and all his actions will slow down. But even so, this pupil technique can be called a magical skill. In that slowing vision, although his body could not keep up, his mind could quickly choose the most beneficial counterattack before the attack came. Just like now, Shuan's strength is far from the opponent's opponent, but with his still vision, he turned sideways early and avoided the punch. At the same time, his right fist was full of power, and he punched the blood god clan's only path. After all this was done, Shuan released his stillness and his slowed down vision returned to its original state. Die! The blood god clan rushed towards them with a ferocious smile, and an afterimage quickly appeared on their body. But at the next moment, Shuan dodged the powerful blow as if he had some foresight. But the blood god clan's head hit Shuan's fist. Because the speed is too fast, it's like it's stuck on its own. Puff! That morning, with a punch full of power, the blood god clan was directly blown away. Shuan looked at his fist, with an irrepressible smile on his lips. Stillness is not the only pupil technique of the blood god pupil. These eyes, which are said to come from the blood god, are too powerful. Not only can it assist in attacking, but it can also explode with extremely terrifying power. Stillness, destruction of delirium, peeling off, destruction. Shuan closed his eyes and felt the powerful power brought by the blood god eyes. The blood god pupil has 4 types of pupil techniques, each of which is extremely powerful. Be still, slow down everything reflected in your field of vision, and practice it to the point where you can still everything in the world. Break through illusions, get to the essence of all things, eliminate the false and preserve the true, and cultivate to the point where you can look directly at the origin of heaven and earth. Peeling can perfectly peel off the power of any living creature's bloodline and warm and nourish one's own bloodline. Destruction, wherever the eyes sweep, the heaven and earth collapse, and everything ceases to exist. Is this the blood god eye? Shuan suppressed the throbbing in his heart. The power of this blood god eye was beyond his imagination. There are 3 types of auxiliary eye skills, each one is stronger than the last. With the assistance of these 3 types of eye skills, there is no difficulty in killing the enemy across the border. And the only one-step attack pupil technique is even more terrifying. Wherever the eyes pass, the heaven and earth will burst. How powerful can this be? Although this last move is not enough for Shuan's level, the auxiliary eye skills of the first 3 moves can be easily performed. Even so, Shuan's strength has undergone earth-shaking changes. This is a qualitative leap. From now on, Shuan is as talented as anyone else in the human race. No way. This is a coincidence, a coincidence. How can someone in the blood-dissolving realm be my opponent? The blood god clan that had been blown away staggered to its feet and rushed over again with an angry roar. Destroy the delusion. Bloody light flowed in Shuan's eyes, and in an instant, the blood god clan opposite him seemed to become transparent. The meridians in the body, the chi and blood flowing crazily, the offensive that is about to gather. With just one glance, the blood god clan was completely seen by Shuan. Shuan swung out a punch, hitting the blood god clan's combat skills that were about to succeed with great accuracy. The next moment, the condensed combat skills dissipated directly, without any power. No. Impossible, how did you do it? Shuan was experimenting with his pupil skills, but this blood god was almost ruined. His eyes were frightened, and he realized that he seemed to be standing naked in front of Shuan, with no secrets at all. Wait a moment, there is another move. Shuan punched the opponent hard and knocked him to the ground. He lowered his head and looked at the blood god clan, his eyes suddenly brightened with blood. Strip. As soon as the words fell, the blood god clan screamed miserably. The blood all over his body was boiling, and the blood in his body was being withdrawn. The extreme pain made him almost faint. But even so, it was difficult to conceal the horror in his heart. He stared at Shuan's scarlet eyes and murmured in disbelief. Blood God eyes. Impossible. This is impossible. These are Lord Gaowu's pupils, how could they be here with you? Lord Mordor, he has. At the end of the murmur, the blood god began to roar loudly, wanting to tell Mordor about this discovery. You seem to know too much. Shuan lowered his head, his eyes bursting with bright light where no one could see him. In an instant, the blood god clan who had just roared angrily died immediately. A ball of blood essence exuding a faint light floated in the air. Shuan held it in his hand, and the blood suddenly seemed to melt and seep into his body. Boom! The surging energy and blood in Shuan's body exploded, and the already spacious blood vessels expanded again and became stronger at the same time. Strip off the opponent's blood, blend it into your own to strengthen the qi and blood meridians, warm and nourish the internal organs, good eye skills. Shuan stood up, feeling the blood power in his body getting stronger, with a sigh on his face. This pupil technique, peeling off, is a pupil technique that can increase one's own potential. The training of a warrior does not just require you to have resources but also the qualifications. Those with strong qualifications can practice faster and can absorb more resources. As for those with poor qualifications, not only their cultivation speed is slow, but also they cannot digest no matter how many resources they have. Shuan's qualifications are not too strong. It can be seen from the college entrance examination that he only had the 6th level of body tempering at that time. But now, he no longer has to worry about his qualifications. Eye technique peeling off is a magical power that can increase a person's potential. The blood god eyes are of great importance, so we must use them with caution in the future. The origin of this thing cannot be explained. If the blood god clan knew about it, I'm afraid they would go crazy and hunt me down. Shuan pondered for a moment, but still chose not to expose his blood god eyes. His current strength is too weak, and the human race is not all made of iron. He should wait until his strength increases in the future. Shuan, come here quickly, these will be confiscated soon. Ji Yuli's voice came from far away, interrupting Shuan's thoughts. He turned around and saw that Ji Yuli was sticking his butt out and breaking the weapon out of the hands of a blood god clan member. Touch the body. Shuan's eyes lit up and he hurriedly said loudly, leave some for me. At this time, the war between the human race and the blood god clan is almost over. If it waits until it is completely over, all the dead blood god clan will have to be confiscated. Other humans present did not dare to pick it up. After all, if they were discovered, the academy would look for them. But Ji Yuli and Shuan have nothing to fear. In this war, the two of them had already made great contributions, and even if they were discovered, the academy would turn a blind eye. I have shed blood for the school, why can't I pick up some rags? The front is fighting, and the rear is licking the bag. It's just a pity that some really good things are in the center of the battlefield, and the blood gods who died there are all strong ones. But the aftermath of the battle there was too strong, and Ji Yuli and Shuan did not dare to go. However, the blood gods in the spiritual and physical realms are enough for them to gain a lot. But not long after, the battle was completely over. With their absolute advantage, the human race ate up all the blood gods who came this time, including the strong man at the same time as Guan Wenshan, Mordor. Except for letting Gaowu run away, this battle can be said to be a complete victory. Of course, others don't know that even if Gaowu runs away, he will be nothing more than a useless person. The real blood god eye is now on Shuan's body. Clean the battlefield and rescue the wounded. Loud shouts were heard in the distance, and Guan Wenshan returned to the school with bloodstains all over his body. His eyes swept across the entire school and he was taking stock of this harvest. And when he saw the busy Ji Yuli and Shuan, he looked stunned, and then shook his head in confusion. You dare to snatch the school's trophies. You are very courageous. Guan Wenshan, who was in a pretty good mood, came to Ji Yuli and Shuan and said with a half smile. Ji Yuli and Shuan, who were gathering their essence and blood to draw weapons, froze when they heard this. Shuan quickly stood up and looked up at the sky, pretending not to know anything. Ji Yuliza patted his butt carelessly, looked at Guan Wenshan and said righteously. How can we call it robbery? We have shed blood for the school, and Governor Guan cannot question our character. We see that all the instructors are too busy, so we are just helping you collect the trophies. Shu Jing looked at it quietly and gave a thumbs up in his heart. It's shameless to still look after Gu Li. Well, I've collected as much as I can, and I'll take it with me as well. Guan Wenshan glanced at Gu Li and asked. Shuan felt a little painful when he heard this and was about to take out the dozen bottles of blood essence he had collected. But Gu Li took out a blood-dissolving weapon and handed it to him. No, this is it. Shuan stared blankly at the spiritual weapons hanging on Gu Li's body, and then at the small broken knife that was handed out. After a moment of silence, Shuan took out half a bottle of blood essence from his arms and looked at Guan Wenshan eagerly. You two little fools, you think I'm blind. Guan Wenshan laughed angrily, looked at the two of them and said angrily. No one wants your things, it's a reward for your meritorious service. In today's battle situation, it can be said that Gu Li and Shuan made the greatest contributions. If it weren't for the two of them, the human race would be in great disgrace. Especially Shuan. Guan Wenshan took a deep look at Shuan and didn't ask any questions. Why was Shuan able to use his magical powers in the blood-dissolving realm? Why was he able to recognize the Blood God clan's Blood God monument as its owner? And in what way was he able to block the arrival of the Blood God clan's army? Everyone can see that there may be something secretive about Shuan, but no one will ask in detail. Blue Star is in the stage of promotion, and countless secret realms, large and small, are constantly appearing. It contains too many inheritances, secret techniques, and magical weapons. Which rising human race does not have many opportunities? What the Academy needs to do is not to get to the bottom of things, but to protect these hopes for the future of humanity. The two have made great contributions this time, and the school will not be stingy. After gathering his thoughts, Guan Wenshan looked at the two of them and chuckled. The only things the Academy can give you are resources and cultivation rights in various secret realms. But I personally got a few gadgets some time ago. It's up to you to choose. As he spoke, Guan Wenshan waved his palm lightly, and two exquisite, symbol-like keys appeared in his hand. Shuan was still curious about what this thing was, while Gu Li, who was standing beside him, had already jumped up excitedly. The key to the secret realm of trading in all realms. The key to the secret realm of trading in all realms. Shuan looked at Gu Li doubtfully. He had never heard of this thing. However, even if this thing has some value, it can't be compared to the resources provided by the school, right? Not to mention the credits, just the fact that each secret realm can be used for free is a large amount of credits. Anyway, for Shuan now, his credits can't even enter the smallest secret realm. Listen to me and choose to trade the key to the secret realm. This thing is not easy to do. Gu Li looked excited, looked at the two exquisite keys that looked like symbols, and explained. With this key, you can enter a secret realm in the heavens anytime and anywhere. It's a great place. It has everything you can imagine. Shuan was a little puzzled when he heard this, secret realm of the heavens. This key can directly cross the interface. Secret realms are not only unique to Blue Star, other interfaces will also give birth to various secret realms from time to time, and the same is true for the battlefields in the heavens. The battlefield of the heavens is a magical place, boundless like a continent with no beginning or end. This continent connects all known planes. And in this magical continent, there will also be some secret realms with strange effects. Moreover, the secret realm created by the battlefield of the heavens is much stronger than the interface of living beings. Of course, that secret realm is called the secret realm of trading. Just like its name, it is an extremely huge trading place. There are humans, blood gods, even demons, gods, etc., all races that can be named, you will meet there. There was uncontrollable excitement in Gu Li's tone. In that place, as long as you have spirit stones, there is nothing you can't buy, even heaven-level combat skills, magical powers, and even flawless spiritual seeds. As long as you have money, you can even buy some super powerful slaves that destroy the race. There is the largest gold-selling cave in the world, a casino where millions of dollars are spent, a restaurant where gods feed, and mining tribes who can get rich overnight by gambling. As he spoke, Gu Li winked at Shuan and smiled mysteriously. There is also the largest brothel built by Maizu and night elves. That place is a gentle town. Boom. Gu Li kept talking, but Guan Wenshan, who felt more and more uncomfortable the more he listened, gave Gu Li a slap on the head with a dark face. I'm not a son of a man. Is it for you to play in the trading secret realm? Guan Wenshan glared at Ji Yuli angrily, then looked at Shu An and said, "Don't listen to his nonsense. The advantage of being able to enter the trading secret realm is that it will broaden your horizons and better understand all races. Of course, there are many opportunities in that place. There was even a star secret treasure after the interface collapsed at a stall. But it all depends on your eyesight." As he spoke, Guan Wenshan seemed to have remembered something and warned, "By the way, don't go to the mining tribe's stone gambling den. You have to throw in whatever money you have there. After all, there are only a few people who get rich overnight." Thinking of his past experience, Guan Wenshan felt like crying. When he entered the secret realm of trading for the first time, he was deceived by the old man to gamble on stones. As a result, he lost most of his wealth in it, but got nothing. "Prefect, where all races coexist, won't there be wars every day? Can there be peaceful transactions?" Shu An was fascinated when he heard this, but after realizing it, he couldn't help but ask doubtfully, "Hey, how come?" Ji Yuli waved his hand, pointed at the key in Guan Wenshan's hand and said with a smile, "There is a safe area in the trading secret realm. If you see the key, you can enter the safe zone with this thing. All fighting is prohibited there. Violators will be suppressed by the secret realm. This key is a secret realm protection talisman. The trading secret realm will naturally produce millions of them every year and scatter them to all the worlds. Each one is extremely precious. If you don't have this key, you can only trade outside the safe zone. There is no guarantee there. It's too dangerous." Shu An's eyes brightened when he heard this, and his heart suddenly beat. What he has been worried about is that his cultivation level is too low. Even if he finds a good treasure there, he will not be able to bring it back. But since safety can be guaranteed, the value of this trip is too great. The blood god pupils, broken delirium, can also be used for Taobao, right? Shu An licked his lips, excitement flashed in his eyes. That kind of unknown exploration made his heart beat violently. "It seems you have made your choice." Guan Wenshan handed over the 2 keys with a chuckle and said, "Think carefully, the secret resources of the school are real, but the value of this thing is full of uncertainty. You may make a lot of money from this trip, or you may lose everything." Before Guan Wenshan finished speaking, Ji Yuli and Shu An couldn't wait to reach out and hold the key in their hands. "While you are young, of course you have to take a gamble." Ji Yuli and Shu An smiled at each other and put the keys away. "Shu An, did you let this blood god monument recognize its owner?" After giving the reward, Guan Wenshan looked at the tall blood god monument beside him, pondered for a moment and then asked. Today's blood god clan's plan really made him break out in a cold sweat. But he also understood the true power of the blood god monument. The secret technique of combining 3 blood god tablets is actually a large-scale void teleportation. If this secret technique is used on the battlefield, the effects it can exert are terrifying. "I have recognized my master." Shu An nodded honestly when he heard this. This cannot be false. Ji Yuli beside him was surprised when he heard this. Only the blood god clan can recognize the blood god monument as its owner. Now Shu An is actually in control. Although he was curious, Ji Yuli didn't ask any more questions. Everyone has their own secrets. "Good," Guan Wenshan praised, and then asked solemnly. "If I get you the remaining 2 blood god monuments, can you also successfully recognize the master?" This point is very important. Shu An was stunned when he heard this, then nodded and said, "As long as there is something there, even if the blood god monument has an owner, it will recognize me as its master." These confident words made Guan Wenshan and Ji Yuli raise their eyebrows slightly. Being able to understand each other's secret treasures across races, and being able to make the owner abandon the original owner, the difficulty of this did not make Shu An worry at all. Shu An smiled when he saw this. No one except him could understand the horror of understanding. "Your words are enough. I will contact some powerful people and try to get you the remaining 2 blood god tablets." After Guan Wenshan pondered for a moment, he gritted his teeth and said firmly, "The secret technique of large-scale void teleportation is too important. Now that you know it, there is no reason to let it go. It's just the blood god clan. If the human race is serious, he will have to give it even if he doesn't. Zigen, you have taken control of the blood god monument, which means you have also comprehended the blood god's immortal body. Ji Yuli looked at Shuan enviously and asked. He has a deep understanding of how strong the blood god's immortal body is. This kind of body is almost impossible to kill in the physical realm. Shuan felt the surging energy and blood in his body and nodded with a chuckle. Boy, you're in luck. Ji Yuli heard this and patted Shuan on the shoulder. This year's gold casting furnace in the secret realm of the heavens will start in more than 4 months. We strive to reach the body casting realm as soon as possible. With your blood god's immortal body, you are enough to get a good ranking in the secret realm. If you can get into the top 10, the God-given magical powers from the secret realm are really good things. God-given supernatural powers. Shuan's eyes lit up when he heard this. If it can be related to magical powers, it is definitely an amazing fighting method. There is a ranking list in the gold casting furnace. For the top 10 people, the secret realm will specially create a magical power that is most suitable for you based on your experience, physique, and spirit. When you cast gold, you cast a golden body. In the furnace, you melt the magic of divine passages. This secret realm is very magical. It seems to involve the past and the future. This thing cannot be explained clearly. You have to experience it personally. As he said that, Ji Yuli looked at Shuan, who was looking forward to it, and said with a smile. Don't be careless. There are many races entering the secret realm, and there are many monsters in it. Ji Yuli had been honing his skills in the physical realm for a year, relying on his state of mind to reach 8th place. This shows how terrifying the gold content of this gold casting furnace is. Shuan smiled when he heard this and did not refute. He possesses the immortal body of the blood god, the eyes of the blood god, the immortal destroying spear and the seal of the human emperor, so how can he not be a monster? And while Shuan and Ji Yuli were chatting, the powerful human race men who were cleaning the battlefield in the distance returned one after another. Where's Yi Yongfang? Guan Wenshan glanced at everyone and asked in a cold tone. Yi Yongfang left right after the blood god clan finished killing them, saying that something happened to the family. Strange, have you heard anything happen to the Yi family? No, but looking at Yi Yongfang's appearance, I'm afraid it's something big. He's so anxious that he's sweating. The strong men of the human race looked at each other in shock. No one knew why Yi Yongfang left in such a hurry. Now that the blood god clan is defeated, it is time to divide the spoils. In the past, Yi Yongfang had already jumped out, but today it is strange. Of course something happened to the Yi family, and it was a big deal. Guan Wenshan sneered, then stepped up to the sky. The powerful men above the divine level in Daxia City must obey the order and clear out the Daxia territory today. Lose the city. Boom. The moment the voice fell, a huge formation that covered the sky and sun slowly rose until it completely enveloped the entire Daxia City. Everyone in Daxia City changed their expressions when they saw this. The Great Sha Tian locking formation is a formation that many young people have never seen before. But some old people understand that every time this formation is raised, blood will flow into a river. The last time the heaven-locking formation was opened was when the aliens invaded the Great Sha territory. No one hesitated, and all the powerful men above the divine realm in the Great Sha region immediately gathered in the sky above the 10,000 Races Academy. Yi family, Song family, Zhang family. Guan Wenshan holds a book in his hand, which contains densely packed names of people or forces. Daxia has been unable to take action, but it does not mean that it does not know who has betrayed the human race. Anyone who has had an affair with a foreign race, made a deal with a foreign race, or harmed the interests of the human race has long been recorded. Now that Daxia's predicament has been resolved, it's time to purge. Kill everyone on the list. Children of various factions who cannot reach the realm of gods will be forced into the death row camp on the battlefield and can atone for their sins by killing hundreds of people from the same realm. Anyone who disobeys Daxia's military orders will be killed. Those who secretly protect criminal escapees will be killed. Those who resist to the death and refuse to admit guilt are Yi tribe. Orders full of killings are issued one after another. Once the trapped beasts escape, it will be bloody. For these traitors, there is no mercy in Daxia's military orders, only killing and cruelty. The entire Daxia city was quiet, except for Guan Wenshan's forbidding orders that kept ringing. At this moment, all the people or forces who had been in contact with the alien race panicked. Set off. When the last transfer order was issued, Guan Wenshan was the first to bear the brunt, followed by an army of gods full of evil spirits. On this day, Daxia City was destined to flow into a river of blood. It's really scary when Lao Guan moves in real earnest. Looking at the leaving figure, Ji Yuli shrank his neck and said with some fear. Back then, he had scolded Guan Wenshan behind his back because of the matter regarding the formation system. It turns out that Guan Wenshan was not unaware of the Yi family's problems but was waiting for an opportunity. Let's go, there's no need for us on such a battlefield. Go back and practice quickly. I will consolidate your cultivation and you will break through the spiritual realm. Then we will go to the secret realm of trading. Shuan said that he was about to go back to practice. This time he gained quite a lot, so he just needed to sort it out. Hey, wait a minute. Ji Yuli grabbed Shuan and said in an angry tone, with such a good opportunity, you want to go back to practice. Shuan was stunned for a moment, not understanding what this meant. Do you have money to go to the trading secret realm? Ji Yuli asked. Shuan touched his trouser pocket and shook his head in embarrassment. If you don't have money, go to this shitty trading secret place. We have to make money. Ji Yuli pulled Shuan and whispered softly. What are Lao Guan and the others doing? They're ransacking the house. I don't know about other people's homes, but the Yi family is very rich. When the time comes, let's raid their homes. Before he finished speaking, Ji Yuli blinked at Shuan, the meaning of which was self-evident. Worry, you are so brave. If the governor and the others see this, can they allow us to enter the Yi family? Shuan's scalp felt tight, but his eyes were bright and he licked his lips. Don't worry, the two of us can take very little. Even if we are discovered, no one will care. Just be on guard against the Yi family's counterattack and not get hurt. Ji Yuli's chest thumped loudly, with a confident look on his face. He did this kind of thing often, and at most he would get scolded in the end. How much can you take? Shuan's mouth twitched slightly and he glanced at the blood god monument beside him. Others don't know, but he knows that there is a large space inside his thing. If nothing else, pretending to be a member of the Yi family is not a problem. You're right, how much can we take? Shuan waved his hand gently, and the blood god monument beside him was collected into the sea of consciousness. Then he looked at Ji Yuli and said righteously. When the time comes, you take the bulk, and I'll just take a little. Ji Yuli laughed loudly when he heard this. Let's go. Daxia City, Yi family. As the top aristocratic family in the Great Sha region, the Yi family occupies an area of 100 acres, with carved beams, painted buildings, and numerous pavilions, all in the style of a noble family. But as Guan Wenshan launched an attack, the entire Yi family fell into chaos. The Yi family is very strong, but depending on who they compete with, if the academy and Daxia City join forces, they can't resist at all. However, the Yi family is no less a family of formations. A large protective formation temporarily blocked Guan Wenshan and others from outside. They were still waiting for the Blood God clan to rescue them. Zhan Yi's casual words at the beginning were already their only hope. And just when the Yi family was confronting Guan Wenshan and others, two figures quietly came to the remote rear of the Yi family. Gone. We can't get in even if there's a big formation blocking it. Big formation. It's a small matter. In front of Yi's house. President, it seems that the Yi family is going to fight to the death. Lu Wenhua, from the alchemy department, looked at the closed formation and frowned. The Yi family is famous for its formations, and now that they have launched a large formation to protect the family, even if there are many of them, they are afraid that they will not be able to defeat it in a short time. HMPH. If you don't repent, how long can this formation protect them? Chen Chuan, the head of the War Law Department, had a cold look on his face. He had been unhappy with the Yi family for a long time. Once the Daxia locking formation is opened, they have no way to escape. Guan Wenshan pondered for a moment, then looked at an old man beside him. Lao Tian, how long will it take to break this formation? If it takes too long, we can just use force to break it open. At this time, the Yi family is no more than meat on the board, and it is difficult to escape with wings. But if it could be easily won, no one would bother to expend energy on bombarding the formation. The Tian Bolin next to Guan Wenshan is the deputy head of the formation department, and his understanding of the formation method is not inferior to that of Yi Yongfang. In the past, he was relegated to the second position because of the suppression of the Yi family. Now that the Yi family has fallen, he will naturally become the new head of the formation department. This is a large formation, the Liuhe Yuan Ceiling Formation. It will take about an hour to break through it with force. Tian Bolin looked at the large formation in front of him, studied it carefully and frowned. The Yi family may have been prepared for it. There are still some small formations integrated into this formation, causing this large formation to undergo new changes every minute. I'm not too sure, but I can give it a try. If I can figure out the flow pattern of this large formation, and cut off the flow pattern of the large formation within 1 minute, I can open a gap. The powerful human beings present nodded upon hearing this. They are not short of time, but if they wait for a while, can the Yi family fly out? Everyone in the Yi family was covered in cold sweat as they watched this scene. When will the Blood God sect come? Please contact me immediately. The head of the Yi family was sweating profusely and roared. This Blood God sect is not close to us. It should be on the road. Yes, it must be on the road. Yi Yongfang was also anxious. He looked at Guan Wenshan and others above. It's okay, I can definitely catch up. There are many changes in this formation, and Tian Bolin won't be able to break it for a while. His eyes were looking into the distance, his eyes were red with anxiety. Hurry up, come on. And just when Tian Bolin and others were slowly breaking the formation, Ji Yuli looked at Shu and beside him in surprise. Can you handle this formation? Although he doesn't understand formations, he can be used as a formation to protect the clan by the Yi family, so he is obviously not an ordinary person. It's not a big problem. Shuan raised his head and looked in all directions, carefully observing the structure of the formation. This large formation is the main protection, but there is no killing formation in it. There are a lot of changes, but it is of no use. As he spoke, a flash of scarlet flashed deep in his eyes. Blood God eyes, break the illusion. In an instant, the large formation in front of him seemed to become transparent, and the formation patterns within it were clearly visible before his eyes. Shuan just glanced at it, his hands turned into afterimages, and formation patterns quickly penetrated into the formation. Laugh. In the blink of an eye, there was a soft sound, and a gap appeared at the bottom of the formation in front of him. Done. Shuan clapped his hands. There was no happiness or excitement on his face, just like opening the door of his own house. Seeing this, Ji Yuli looked up at Tian Bolin in the sky, who was still studying carefully with his butt raised, then at Shuan who looked relaxed, and finally at the gap in the formation in front of him. Awesome. Ji Yuli gave a thumbs up and said with admiration. He had finally seen the power of Shuan's formation. Anyway, since Shuan told him that what he obtained was a small formation, he had never seen any formation that could stump Shuan. He suddenly thought that Shuan's formation was so powerful, why would Ruonan just follow Shuan and learn it? Follow Tian Bolin. He glanced at the old man above, who was frowning, and shook his head expressionlessly. Muda, you are misleading your children, what have you taught my Ruonan to become? Let's go quickly, before the governor and the others break the formation, no one will grab it from us. Shuan was gearing up, looking at the Yi family with its many pavilions, his eyes full of excitement. This is all money. Ji Yuli carefully stepped across the formation, carefully observing the movements above at all times. If the formation is destroyed, the Yi family won't discover it, right? Shuan looked at Ji Yuli dissatisfied after hearing this. Trust the professionals. A small gap can still be found. I have to have more food. The corner of Ji Yuli's mouth twitched, then he waved his hand gently, let's go. No one saw it. While everyone was watching Tian Bolin break the formation, the two little guys sneaked into the Yi family. Coincidentally, at this time, the strong men of the Yi family gathered in the direction of the gate, nervously watching every move of the outsiders. As for the interior, they are confident that nothing will go wrong on the inside. Even with so many strong men outside being blocked by the formation, what could go wrong internally? With the Yi family extremely confident, Shuan and Ji Yuli had an unobstructed journey and directly arrived at the hinterland of the Yi family. Gone. The Yi family is really rich. Even the wood used to build the house is spirit wood, and the floor tiles are made of horned jade with excellent conductivity. Cultivating in this environment, even an idiot can temper his body more than 6 times. Ji Yuli kept muttering about the wealthy Yi family. Over the years, the Yi family has embezzled an unknown amount of school funds. Are these things worth anything? Different from Ji Yuli's focus, Shuan came directly to a big pillar and asked with gleaming eyes. He was afraid of being poor. At this time, he didn't want to let go of anything related to money. These things are worthless if they are small in quantity, but in such large quantities, this house alone may have 1,000 credits. With that said, Ji Yuli gently pushed the door open and walked in, saying as he walked, "Don't worry about these rubbish, we can't take that much between us, hurry up and find something valuable." Ji Yuli dove into the room and started tumbling around. But obviously, the owner of this room is not a strong person, and there is nothing too precious in it. Let's go find the Yi family's treasure house. There's nothing interesting in these houses." After looking at Ji Yuli briefly, his interest waned and he walked out quickly. "Senior brother, let's search separately. We will meet up after we find the Yi family's treasure house." After Shuan finished speaking, Ji Yuli also nodded. The Yi family is too big, covering an area of 100 acres. It is really difficult to find the place where the Yi family puts their treasures without being familiar with it. So the two briefly discussed, one went east, the other went west, and began a blanket search. But Ji Yuli didn't see it. After he left, Shuan opened the door with bright eyes. "The houses are made of spirit drawing wood, so these furniture are not mortal things, right? Forget it, it's not troublesome anyway, just take it first and then talk about it." Shuan licked his lips, looked at the antique furniture in the house, raised his palms slightly. "Receive." The sound fell, and in the blink of an eye, everything in the room disappeared out of thin air, and the simple and atmospheric room became empty. Shuan nodded with satisfaction, turned around and walked out of the room, closing the door gently. It was extremely quiet inside, the empty room filled with silence. But suddenly, the door was pushed open again, and a hand reached in. "Receive." With a crash, the floor tiles in the room floated into the air one by one, and then disappeared in an instant. In an instant, the empty house was exposed with ugly layers of soil, making it even more desolate. Unfortunately, the movement of demolishing the house is too great, and these spirit-drawing trees cannot be taken away. Outside, Shuan looked at the house in front of him and shook his head sadly. A house is worth 1,000 credits. Now that half of it is left behind, it's like losing money, which is heartbreaking. Okay, there are a lot of rooms here." Shuan comforted himself gently and walked quickly to the next room. "Receive." He didn't look for anything valuable. Anyway, except for the house, which couldn't be moved, everything else was put into the blood god monument. In this way, Shuan went very fast and headed east. The houses along this road all look very beautiful on the outside, with nothing out of the ordinary, but the situation inside is hard to describe. Not only that, when Shuan passed by a pond, his eyes lit up when he looked at the rockery in the center. What a good thing. Can this thing also attract spiritual energy? Received. The rockery disappeared out of thin air, and the pond with this beautiful environment suddenly seemed to be missing a piece. This fish is also a spiritual creature. Quote, haha, this kind of flower is actually a spiritual plant. Worry, a big businessman, used such a big spiritual stone to carve a plaque. Shuan's excited voice sounded from time to time, and the places he passed by were barren of grass. But coincidentally, at this time, a Yi family disciple came from a distance with a hurried expression. This person is also an acquaintance, Yi Fei, who was competing with Shuan for Villa number 1 at the school. At this time, the Yi family was in chaos, and the younger generation was also panicked. Yi Fei was originally watching nervously at the gate, but later he felt it was too dangerous and planned to find a hidden place to hide. He walked in a hurry, passing by the pond where he used to play. He didn't care at first, but subconsciously looked up and then prepared to move forward. But suddenly, his footsteps stopped and he looked at the pond in front of him with a confused expression. I always felt like something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it for a while. After standing there in confusion for a while, he opened his mouth. Where's the fake rockery? Where's such a big rockery? The fish raised by third grandpa are gone too. The spiritual values of the second uncle species here are also missing. Yi Fei only felt 5 thunders hitting his head, and stared blankly at the familiar but extremely unfamiliar place in front of him. No matter how you look at it, it looks like it was robbed by bandits. There's a thief. As soon as this idea came out, Yi Fei suddenly looked panicked and turned around to report the news. But as soon as he turned around, an expressionless face appeared in front of him. Tai, Xuan, why are you here? Yi Fei was horrified and couldn't think straight for a while. Aren't people from the academy blocked out? When did Xuan come in? No one gave him an explanation. Xuan directly reached out and pinched Yi Fei's neck. Yi Fei, who had been able to fight with him before, was now as fragile as an ant. What do you want to do? This is the Yi family, Yi Fei struggled hard, with fear on his face. If you are talking nonsense, I will send you down in advance. Xuan finished speaking impatiently, looked at Yi Fei and asked. Don't say you don't know where the Yi family's treasure house is, and don't try to trick me. If something happens to me, you will be the first to die. Yi Fei swallowed hard. I'll take you there, you let me go. Make a deal. Seeing Xuan nodding, Yi Fei led Xuan tremblingly towards the depths of Yi's house. At the same time, Xuan also summoned Ji Yuli and asked him to come over quickly. At this time, they had spent a lot of time, and the formation was about to be broken after waiting for a while. Not long after, a 3-story pavilion appeared in front of Xuan. This pavilion is very exquisite, and there are formation protection around it. It is a very important place at first glance. This is the secret treasure pavilion of the Yi family. Usually, most of the Yi family's treasures are kept here, and the family distributes them uniformly. Yi Fei said while looking anxiously into the pavilion. In the past, there were 3 elders guarding this pavilion. As long as one of them was there, Xuan would be dead. But obviously, now that the life and death of the Yi family is at stake, even the elders who guard the secret treasure pavilion have rushed to the gate. You said you were going to let me go. Yi Fei looked at Xuan tremblingly and spoke hurriedly. Didn't your girlfriend tell you that you can't trust a man's words? Xuan smiled, then applied force with his palms, and Yi Fei's neck suddenly clicked. There is no credit to those who rebel against the clan, and it would be a shame for such people to die. Xuan, how was the harvest? Coincidentally, Ji Yuli came quickly at this time. Looking at the smile on his face, it was obvious that he had gained a lot. It's not bad, I gained a little bit. Xuan glanced at the miscellaneous things on the blood god monument, then looked at the pavilion in front of him, and said with a smile. But this is the big deal. There are definitely a lot of treasures in it. Wait a second. Without any nonsense, Xuan went directly to the pavilion, opened the Eye of Deception, and easily saw through the formation protection. The formation seal in his hand condensed, and the formation in front of him instantly opened a portal. Ji Yuli, who was standing next to him, looked at him with envy on his face. This formation method was a must-have for robbing families and homes. Let's go quickly. After making this profit, we should retreat. Xuan glanced at the distance. The school should be about to open its gate. Walk. Ji Yuli and Xuan walked into the pavilion gate with excitement. When they saw the scene inside, both of them laughed. Rows of wooden shelves are neatly arranged, with many treasures placed on them. Deep sea marrow silver, what a good thing, it's a good material for refining weapons. Hey, Zonglei iron, 1000 Jin stone, these are all things that can be used to set up formations. There are also Tianxinhua, Shuilinglian, ha ha ha, the Yi family is such a big dog, it's our turn to get rich. On the first floor of the pavilion, there are many treasures placed, and the dense aura of treasures makes this place colorful. Hurry up, Xuan, and get the valuable things. Ji Yuli laughed and ran quickly towards those valuable treasures. Xuan, on the other hand, smiled and said, It's okay, senior brother, you take it first. I'll choose after you take it. When Ji Yuli heard this, he patted Xuan on the shoulder with a touched expression. Good brother, senior brother saw you right, don't worry, senior brother will protect you from now on. Xuan smiled and said nothing. When he saw that Ji Yuli could hardly hold on, he asked. Senior brother, have you finished taking it? Ji Yuli nodded with a satisfied look on his face. Then senior brother, please give way. Ji Yuli was stunned when he heard this. Holding a bunch of treasures, he stood in the corner of the pavilion and asked curiously. Junior brother, don't you choose? Xuan smiled and waved his hand, I don't pick. If you pick it up in the pot, it will be the food. Before Ji Yuli understood what this sentence meant, Xuan had already stretched out his palm and shouted softly. Receive. Wow. In an instant, the treasures in the entire pavilion, including the shelf holding the treasures, rose into the air and then disappeared in an instant. In just the blink of an eye, the crowded one-story pavilion became completely empty. Ji Yuli was holding a bunch of treasures, as if he was stupid, staring at the shiny floor. No, the floor was gone. After a full minute of confusion, Ji Yuli's roar of collapse rang out. Space secret treasure. You are so good at not being picky. Chapter 91. Looking at the empty attic, Ji Yuli was heartbroken. He gained a lot from this trip, and when converted into credits, it was also a lot of income. Who do you want to compare with? If his gain is 1, then Xuan's gain is 10,000. He never thought that Xuan actually had such a treasure as a secret space treasure. Son of a fool, how many good things do you have in you? Ji Yuli's eyes turned blue when he looked at Xuan. Array treasures, magical powers, immortal bodies, blood god monuments, and now there is another space secret treasure. In the past, he found that he was quite powerful. By searching the entire school alone, he had already gathered enough resources for a breakthrough before he reached the spiritual realm. But now when compared with Xuan, he found that he was just a beggar. How long has Xuankai been in school? If you take out one of these treasures at random, he will have more credits than he has accumulated in 2 years. I won't talk about the harvest of the Yi family today. Although the real good things must be found in those strong men of the Yi family, the number of treasures in the secret treasure pavilion is absolutely astronomical. The accumulation of a huge family, how much does this need to be converted into credits? Thinking about that number, Ji Yuli felt a little dizzy. I would like to thank my senior brother for leading us on this trip. After taking a look at the densely packed treasures in the space, Xuan comforted him with a smile. Don't worry, when you get to the secret trading realm, if senior brother has something you like but can't afford, just tell junior brother and I will buy it for you. Xuan's chest thumped loudly, with an arrogant look on his face. Ji Yuli is not someone else. Although they have known each other for a short time, they have absolutely nothing to say to him. After saving his life, the school supported him and even took him to the secret realm. Now when he came to Yi's house, it was Ji Yuli who reminded him. Xuan remembered all these things in his heart. He may be stingy towards others, but when Ji Yuli opens his mouth, he will definitely help. Ha ha ha, your words are enough. Ji Yuli laughed twice when he heard this, with a look of relief in his eyes. Xuan got a lot of things from this trip. Although he was envious, he would never ask for a penny. But if Xuan didn't say a word and just swallowed the wealth, although he wouldn't say anything, he would definitely feel uncomfortable. This has nothing to do with anything else, it's just human nature. But as soon as Xuan said those words, Ji Yuli was satisfied. He didn't really need any resources, just an attitude was enough. You kid made a lot of money. This time you trade the secret realm and his party, you have the capital. We'll have to go to the mining clan's stone gambling den at that time. The stones there are horribly expensive, but if you can get something out, you'll definitely get your money back. There is also the Shixian restaurant, GG. The food there is very delicious. This time I must give you a good meal for a big dog like you. Ji Yuli kept muttering excitedly, even preparing the route to the secret trading realm this time. Brother, let's go quickly. There are still 2 floors above. Xuan smiled and pointed to the 2-story attic above that had not yet been searched. Gone. I forgot about the real thing. When Ji Yuli heard this, he immediately reacted and hurriedly pulled Xuan up to the 2nd floor. The space on the 2nd floor is much smaller, and there is no bling. There are only books arranged one after another. The secret skills of the Yi family. Ji Yuli frowned, shook his head and said, you can't take these things. Some treasures are taken away as soon as they are taken. If these things are lost, Lao Guan will definitely trace them to the end. Kung Fu secrets, these things are strictly controlled in Daxia. If they are sold or stolen privately, Daxia will issue a wanted order. Although Ji Yuli was bold, he knew what he should not touch. Go and have a look on the 3rd floor. Xuan nodded, understanding the importance, and turned towards the 3rd floor. Compared with the first 2 floors, the 3rd floor is more primitive, with only a lonely circular formation. Teleportation array. No, the teleportation array is not that small. It looks like something similar to the array treasure, but it doesn't look much like it. Ji Yuli touched his chin and turned it around twice, but he didn't understand what this thing did. There seems to be a formation recorded on it. The Yi family probably hasn't fully understood it yet, so they put it here. A red light flashed in Shu An's eyes, and he could clearly see the patterns flowing on the circular formation. Array! Ji Yuli was stunned, but before he could say anything, a violent roar suddenly exploded from the distance. Boom! The violent aftermath rippled in all directions, and the entire Yi family was shocked. The formation that protected the Yi family was now broken into a big hole. Stop it and let's go. Hearing the noise from the outside world, Ji Yuli shrank his neck and jumped down from the third floor. Shu An didn't waste any time. With a wave of his hand, the weird formation was directly absorbed into the space. The two of them kept their heads down and ran all the way, rushing directly from behind the Yi family to the school. And at the same time, as the Yi family's formation collapsed, Guan Wenshan and others started killing like wolves and sheep. There were many powerful people in the academy, but the Yi family only resisted for a moment before being completely defeated. Yi Yongfang did not wait for the arrival of the Blood God sect until his death. GG, I don't know how many resources the Yi family has embezzled over the years. The construction of this home is quite impressive. Chen Chuan looked at the Yi family with its many pavilions and grinned. Haha, it just so happens that the school has insufficient resources during this period, so these have been confiscated. Lu Wenhua from the alchemy department was also in a good mood at this time, with a smile on his face. Even Guan Wenshan, who looked serious next to him, now returned to his usual smiling appearance. Let's go and see how the Yi family has accumulated. Guan Wenshan strode forward and arrived at the hinterland of the Yi family in an instant. A strong man waved his sleeve, and all the doors of the Yi family burst open. Experts at their level don't need to bother to find where the treasure house is, they can determine the direction with just a few moves. And as all the doors opened, some hidden Yi family members were also exposed, and they were captured and killed on the spot in the blink of an eye. But Guan Wenshan and others above did not pay attention to those small details. Instead, they looked down one by one, stunned in place. From the hinterland of the Yi family to the west, all the houses were in a mess, as if they had been rummaged through. Although this was surprising, everyone was not surprised at all. They all thought it was caused by the Yi family members escaping in a hurry. But the houses to the east in the hinterland of the Yi family left everyone confused. From the outside, all the houses look exquisite, but when they open the door, they are completely empty inside, with even the dirt leaking out. This, is the Yi family so poor? Are they all just the same? A strong human race murmured to himself in confusion. It shouldn't be. The house is so well built, but it doesn't even have floor tiles. The other strong human beings were also stunned on the spot, unable to react for a while. It doesn't matter, these are harmless, the real treasure of the Yi family is not here. Tian Bolin looked around, then landed in front of a house protected by a formation, and said with a smile. It can be protected by a medium-sized formation. It seems that the Yi family's secret treasures are all placed here. Wait for me to break through it and take a look. After the words fell, the formation seals in Tian Bolin's hand condensed, and formation patterns penetrated into the formation. After 7 or 8 minutes, the formation was broken. Guan Wenshan and others pushed the door in expectantly, their faces froze. There are only 4 words to describe the Yi family's secret treasure pavilion. The family is surrounded by walls. Senior brother, when are we going to the trading secret realm? On the way back to school, Shu An asked with a rich smile on his face. He gained a lot from this trip, and he has a lot of money, and his thoughts on going to the secret realm are more active. How about a month from now? Ji Yuli pondered for a moment and then said, the flawless spiritual seed I have incorporated has not yet been completely refined. 1 month is enough for me to break through to the spiritual realm. As he said that, he looked at Shu An enviously and said, and you, don't be in a hurry to go out and get so many resources, and converting them into your own strength is the most important thing. Practice the blood god's immortal body well. No one in the human race has mastered this technique. It will definitely be powerful when it is fully cultivated. In this way, When you are promoted to the body casting realm, you can also get a good ranking in the gold casting furnace. If there's anything you don't understand about cultivation, just ask senior brother Lin. If senior brother doesn't have time, just come to me. When Ji Yu Li first entered the perfection department, it was Lin Chengyuan who taught him, and now it was his senior brother who led the way for Xuan. As for the head of the perfect department, he is more of a backer and supporter for his disciples. Okay, see you in a month. After a brief discussion, Xuan and Ji Yu Li returned to the perfect department, each found a room and began to retreat. It's time to take stock of this harvest. Xuan sat cross-legged, with a bright light in his eyes. He reached out and brushed it, and a large area of precious treasures covered the entire ground, and the dense aura of treasures enveloped Xuan's whole person. If you find time to sell these floor jade and furniture, you should get a lot of credits. Other things. Many elixirs can be obtained from the alchemy department to exchange for elixirs, and ores can be obtained from the weapon refining department. Xuan classified the large number of treasures obtained this time, collected them in the Blood God Monument, and then looked at the items that he obtained the most this time. They are all good materials for refining the formation base. Looking at the mountains of various resources, Xuan's eyes lit up with joy. In the past, he had only a few insights into the formation, but he was unable to lay out a complete 10-direction annihilation forbidden formation. What is lacking is the resources to refine the formation base and insufficient cultivation. But this time the harvest was too great. The Yi family is originally a family of formations, and most of the things collected in the secret treasure pavilion are resources used to refine the formation base. Such many treasures are the accumulation of the entire Yi family. If they were replaced by spiritual stones, it would be an astronomical figure. As long as the spiritual stones are enough, these things cannot be sold. Xuan pondered for a moment, and then his eyes flashed. These formation resources vary in quality, but they are enough to set up a simple Shifang annihilation. I have too many secrets, and there are many jealous and offending people. It's time to give myself a trump card. After leaving the small town, Xuan took every step carefully because he did not have a strong backer or a good background. This was slightly alleviated after adding the perfect series. But Xuan understands that no one can truly protect him for the rest of his life. The only real backer is his own fist. When the Yi family was oppressed, if he had a complete set of 10 directions annihilation formation, there would be 2 situations. And as his strength gradually increases, he will encounter more and more enemies in the future. No one knows when he will fall into despair. And the formation base of Shifang annihilation will be his most powerful trump card. First break through the bone forging realm, refine the formation base, and then sell other things in exchange for spiritual stones, which will be used as the driving energy for annihilation in 10 directions. With many thoughts on his mind, Xuan quickly decided on the purpose of obtaining these treasures. After doing all this, Xuan sat with his eyes closed, and the surging energy and blood in his body began to flow rapidly. When he and Ji Yu left the secret realm, Xuan's realm was already the perfect realm of blood-melting realm. But after obtaining the complete Blood God Immortal Body skill, his level did not improve, but instead dropped. But at the same time, his qi and blood became more condensed, and the quality was terrifyingly high. At the beginning, there was only one characteristic of the Blood Sea Kung Fu, which was that the qi and blood were strong and had a long history, but the increase in power was not that great. But the immortal body of the Blood God is different. The improvement of this skill is an all-round transformation of the body. Not only is his energy and blood extremely strong, but his own strength and defense have also increased significantly. Wow! As Xuan circulated the immortal body of the Blood God, a turbulent sound like ocean waves sounded in his body. Exquisite and simple lines appeared on his body, which looked full of powerful beauty. An explosive force quickly condensed in Xuan's body. Xuan took out a drop of the blood essence of the Blood God clan and swallowed it. Boom! The surging qi and blood erupted from the body, but before it could completely spread, it was swallowed up by the surging qi and blood in Xuan's body. The Blood God's immortal body melts the essence and blood at a terrifyingly fast speed. In the past, it would take Xuan at least 10 minutes to fuse a piece of alien essence and blood, but now in just a blink of an eye, the essence and blood turns into a monstrous essence fire to fuse itself. Seeing the speed of cultivation of the Blood God's immortal body, Xuan directly swallowed a bottle of blood essence. Rumble. Like a collapsed dam, the majestic chi and blood exploded, the skills were running, the endless chi and blood circulated rapidly, and the monstrous essence fire condensed in the body. The meridians are expanding, the 5 internal organs are getting stronger, the chi and blood are more vigorous, and the speed of the exercises is reaching the extreme. After drinking bottles of alien essence and blood, Xuan's aura increased visibly to the naked eye. Impurities that had been quenched were now emerging on Xuan's skin. The blood god's immortal body, a bodybuilding foundation method ranked among the top among all races, allowed Xuan's combat power and potential to increase rapidly. As time goes by, when the strong essence fire could not squeeze out even the slightest impurity from Xuan's body, his body was shaken. The bone forging realm has arrived. Xuan opened his eyes, his body filled with strong energy and blood, and his eyes sparkled. With the blessing of inexhaustible resources, his breakthrough speed was very fast. At this time, every drop of his blood was like molten gold and iron, like mercury thrown into lead, without interruption. The flesh and blood all over the body is like bright glass, clean and translucent without any impurities. The blood in the whole body is like cinnabar, and it has the strength to penetrate the realm of all kinds. And when the flesh and blood is perfect, it will naturally break through the blood-dissolving realm and reach the bone-forging realm. The essence of fire penetrates the bones into the marrow and forges the diamond iron bones. It is recorded in the immortal body of the blood god that when all the bones in the body are as bright and flawless as blood crystals, it will be regarded as a great success. This state is for bone exchange. Is this bone replacement? Xuan opened his eyes and looked at his palm. On the surface, the palm of his hand did not change at all, but when he opened the eye of deception, he could clearly see that the white bones of the little finger of his right hand were now as bright as blood-colored crystal. This change is not only a change in color, the density and hardness of the bones, as well as the increase in the circulation of qi and blood, are greatly improved. It's just a small hand bone. It makes my right hand 30% more explosive and powerful than my left hand. How strong would it be if the entire right hand was completely replaced? Xuan clenched his fist, feeling the majestic power in his fist, with joy in his eyes. The blood-melting realm is an increase in energy within the body, while the bone-forging realm is a stage of rapid increase in all aspects. There are a total of 206 bones in the human body, and the bone-forging realm forges these 206 bones to make them stronger. When all 206 bones are replaced, his strength, defense, and speed will all reach their peak. There are 206 bones. If I practice at my current speed, I can probably melt 2 bones a day. In other words, it will take 103 days, more than 3 months, to complete the whole body bone replacement. Xuan thought about it in his mind and frowned secretly. The gold forging furnace will start in about 4 months, and it will take more than 3 months for him to complete the bone forging, which will not be able to catch up with the opening of the secret realm. Even if he can catch up, he will only be in the early stage of casting by then. How can he get a good ranking? It's too slow. We have to find a way to increase the speed of cultivation. Xuan frowned and muttered in distress. But in fact, Xuan didn't know how fast he could practice by melting 2 bones in one day. It takes about 2 to 3 days for a normal bone forging realm technique to melt a bone. Even with the aid of elixirs, the supply of essence and blood, and some special secret realms, it would still take a day. But Xuan was able to fuse 2 bones in one day just by swallowing blood essence and practice. This was already an astonishing speed. The blood god's immortal body transforms into essence fire, which is far stronger than ordinary techniques. Of course, the resources consumed are also several times that of ordinary exercises. But now Xuan doesn't care about resource consumption, he just wants to practice faster. Thinking of this, Xuan took out the communication talisman and contacted Ji Yu Li. Senior brother, the cultivation speed of bone forging realm is too slow, how can I break it? Urgent. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Ji Yu Li's summons arrived. Don't worry, practice slowly first, and when you get to the secret trading realm, I will take you to a good place where you can break through quickly. Xuan nodded thoughtfully, but before he could put away the communication talisman, another message came from Ji Yu Li. By the way, prepare money. It's difficult to move forward without money in the secret trading world. Xuan nodded, thought for a moment, and looked at the time. There were still more than 20 days left in 1 month. The money will be exchanged in the end. Let's get the formation ready first, and then sell all the remaining useless things. Since Ji Yuli said that there was a quick way to break through in the secret trading area, Xuan was not in a hurry to practice for the time being. He took out a large number of prepared formation resources and placed them in front of him one by one. Let's see if these things can be used to create a complete annihilation of the 10 directions. Xuan took a deep breath, and the thoughts about the forbidden formation flooded into his mind like a tsunami. Xuan closed his eyes tightly, and the formation patterns condensed in his hands quickly turned into afterimages. On a mithril stone placed in front of him, intricate formations quickly condensed. In less than 2 minutes, the mithril stone was densely engraved with formation patterns. Xuan put it away and moved on to the next piece. Refining the formation base, which in the eyes of others is the most difficult and requires the most careful engraving of formation patterns, is as simple as eating and drinking for Xuan. Not long ago, Xuan might not have been able to draw a few characters, so he would have needed to rest and recover his energy and blood. But now, the blood god's immortal body is running at an extremely fast speed, and the torrential energy and blood are flowing out like a continuous stream. With Xuan's current engraving speed, the majestic energy and blood in his body could not keep up. Even if it lasts for too long, you can recover quickly as long as you swallow a few pieces of blood essence. In this way, Xuan sat in place for 23 consecutive days, and the formation seals condensed in his hands never stopped. When he finished carving the material in front of him and subconsciously grabbed the next one, he realized that he had run out of material. Phew, so tired. Even though he had the immortal body of the blood god at this time, Xuan still had a withered face and was weak all over. Being immersed in the vast formations for more than 20 consecutive days was a serious drain on one's physical strength. But his eyes were extremely bright, like lights in the darkness, emitting a deep and bright light. Engraving formation patterns for a long time, although it consumes a lot of physical energy, it is a mental training. Maybe Xuan didn't notice that his mental power was slowly increasing. With so many materials to refine the formation base, and using the formation treasure as the center of the formation, it should be able to exert 5 points of the power of the forbidden formation, right? If we can find a good location, the power can be increased a few levels. Looking at the refined formation base, Xuan nodded with satisfaction. He also prepared a powerful trump card for himself. Nowadays, he is no longer a novice in cultivation. He knows very well what level of formation the forbidden formation is. Although these materials cannot fully exert the power of the forbidden formation now, even if they only have 3 or 5 points, they can still dominate the world. There are still 2 days left. Senior brother Ji Yu should have made a breakthrough, right? After putting away the refined formation base, Xuan opened the door and walked out without retreating. The long-lost sunshine fell, and Xuan narrowed his eyes in contentment. The fatigue of a month in seclusion was relieved a little. After standing for a while, he walked straight out of the school. There are still 2 days left, and he has to sell some of the things he has on him and exchange them for spiritual stones. Daxia City, Wanjin Tower. This place is the largest chamber of commerce in Daxia City. Whether you are short of magic weapons, elixirs, or various resources, you can find them here. Moreover, this place not only sells, but also collects. As long as it is a treasure, Wanjinlu can afford it no matter how much it costs. That's it. Xuan raised his head and glanced, then strode in. The noisy and lively sounds came, and Xuan felt a little embarrassed when he looked at the crowded crowd. He didn't take out 1 or 2 things, and I'm afraid it would be inconvenient in this lobby. Brother Shu. Xuan was stunned and turned around to see a little fat man running over with a surprised look on his face. Brother Shu, please come and notify me so that I can prepare a banquet in advance. The little fat man looked enthusiastic and pulled Xuan straight to the 2nd floor. Brother Shu, this floor is too noisy. Let's go to the 2nd floor. Xuan was confused for a long time, and after looking at the fat man for a while, he suddenly realized. I remembered, Shen Wanjin. He had met him once before, and when they were fighting for the villa, this man had reminded him not to rob students of their belongings. Brother Shen, this is. Xuan followed Shen Wanjin to the 2nd floor. Looking at the staff who bowed to Shen Wanjin, he couldn't help but asked in surprise. Haha, Didn't Brother Shu see the name of this building before he came in? Shen Wanjin blinked and said with a smile. Wanjin Tower. Shen Wanjin. Shuan suddenly understood that Wanjin building was the property of the Shen family. Brother Shu, what do you need to buy this time? What our brothers didn't say, I'll give you a 20% discount. Shen Wanjin said with a smile, not caring at all what Shuan wanted to buy or how much money he would lose with the 20% discount. At this time, Shuan was no longer the unknown junior in front of the villa. The youngest disciple of the perfect department, he saved the heroes of the academy, stole the Blood God clan's Blood God monument, and cultivated the Blood God's immortal body. Each of these things made Shuan famous in the school. The Shen family is most willing to make friends with strong people. Although Shuan is still weak now, his potential is amazing. Shen Wanjin was happy to invest in Shuan at this time. Shuan is from a small town, so he probably doesn't have much money on him. No matter what I buy this time, I will give it away for free. No, such people have to have self-respect, it's still 30% cheaper. Shen Wanjin had a smile on his face, but in his heart he was thinking about how to take the opportunity to form a relationship with Shuan. I'm here to sell something. Shuan's words interrupted Shen Wanjin's contemplation and made him look stunned. Sell things. I wonder what Brother Shu wants to sell. Shen Wanjin pounded his chest and said, no matter what, I will never let Brother Shu suffer. I bought it at a price that is 30% higher than the market price. Hearing these wealthy words, Shuan's mouth twitched slightly. No, Brother Shen just gives me a fair price. Before Shuan finished speaking, Shen Wanjin suddenly glared. Brother Shu, are you looking down on me? Although I am a direct descendant of the third generation of the Shen family, I am an only child, and the Shen family will belong to me in the future. Brother Shu, don't worry, just bring it out if you have anything, I will keep my word. Shuan looked at the arrogant Shen Wanjin and nodded with a strange expression. At this time, the two of them were in an office. The space was not small and there were no outsiders. Shuan saw this and waved his hand. Boom, there was a loud noise, and a tall rockery appeared in the room. Puff, space secret treasure. Shen Wanjin, who was drinking tea, looked at the rockery that suddenly appeared, squirted out a mouthful of water, and his eyes widened. Space secret treasure, this thing is outrageously expensive. Except for his father, he has never seen anyone else have it. But today, in the bone forging realm, there is actually a space secret treasure. Shen Wanjin's lips twitched slightly. He actually thought Shuan was poor at first. This thing, not to mention anything else, the space secret treasure alone is worth more than him. Brother Shen, what do you think the value of this rockery is? Seeing Shen Wanjin's shock, Shuan didn't pay much attention. Unless you don't use it, you can't hide the secret space treasure. Rockery. Shen Wanjin had seen a lot of things in the world, and after being stunned for a while, he immediately realized what he was doing. Looking at the rockery in front of him, he nodded and praised. It's made of black crystal stone and has good auric compatibility. It's rare to see one this big. When Wanjinlu sold a similar one, it cost 1,500 spirit stones. I'll give you the calculation of 1,700. Shen Wanjin was talking, but his voice became smaller and smaller, and he looked at the rockery in front of him with suspicion in his eyes. This thing, the more he looked at it, the more familiar it became. When he walked in, he realized that this was the piece he sold at Wanjin Pavilion. But he remembered that the Yi family seemed to have bought this thing, right? Brother Shu. Shen Wanjing wanted to ask something, but Shuan suddenly waved his hand. Wow, various types of furniture, horned jade floors, and even many flowers and trees, a lot of stuff filled the entire office in an instant. In addition to these sundries, there are also some extremely precious mineral resources and exotic flowers and plants, which are solemnly placed at the top. Brother Shen, please hurry up, I'm in a hurry. Just now, Shuan received a message from Ji Yuli and was about to leave for the secret trading realm. At this time, Shen Wanjin looked at the things in the room, his mouth wide open, and everyone was dumbfounded. At this moment, he suddenly remembered that his father went to kill the enemy with him a while ago, but when he came back, he cursed and said that the Yi family was poor. He didn't understand it at first, but when he saw the scene in front of him today, he suddenly understood it. The Yi family is not poor. Shuan has already robbed it. Brother Shu, you are awesome. Shen Wanjin gave a thumbs up with a look of admiration on his face. You are really brave, daring to grab food under the nose of the Chief Guan. Hey, don't talk nonsense about Brother Shen. This is sold for my senior brother Ji Li Ji. Shuan looked upright and spoke righteously. The corner of Shen Wanjin's mouth twitched, thinking that Ji Li was indeed a bold person. These two people actually arrived at Yi's house one step ahead of Guan Mansion and completed the looting. What is contained in this is terrifying to think about. Shen Wanjin took a deep look at Shuan, then clapped his hands gently. Someone is coming. 2 hours later, a satisfied Shuan walked out of Wanjin building. Although most of the resources of the Yi family were used to refine the formation base this time, the remaining items were also sold for sky-high prices. Those miscellaneous things, including precious ores, precious medicines, and spiritual values, sold a total of 310,000 spiritual stones. 310,000 spirit stones, this is equivalent to 310,000 credits. If one credit is 20,000 yuan, then 310,000 credits. Thinking of that astronomical figure, Shuan felt dizzy for a moment. On the way back to school, Shuan held his head high and his chest high, with a high-spirited look on his face. This time he can really say, he is rich. With brisk steps, Shuan returned to the perfect system in a short time. Ji Li, who had been waiting for a long time, rose directly into the sky and came to Shuan's side. Didn't it say that only the spirit-nurturing realm can fly? Seeing Ji Li flying over, Shuan asked in surprise. Ji Li, who had just made a breakthrough and was in a good mood, said angrily after hearing this. Am I that useless? Whether I can fly or not depends on the spiritual seed I obtained and whether my spiritual power is pure enough. If you're a perfect spiritual species and can't fly, then I'll hit you with a piece of tofu. Shuan was stunned when he heard this, and at the same time, he secretly made up his mind to go to that valley again in the future. Is the money ready? We're going to leave. The resolute Ji Li held the key and looked at Shuan Dao. Crush him to open the passage. Shuan nodded, took out the key and crushed it instantly. Laugh. White streams of light flashed inside the key, and the void seemed to collapse, and a silver portal appeared. Let's go. Let's meet up inside the trading secret, and I will come to find you then. Ji Li stepped into the silver portal and disappeared. When Shuan saw this, he no longer hesitated. He took a step forward and the world immediately started to spin. When he opened his eyes and took a closer look at his surroundings, a sweet cry suddenly sounded in his ears. Human race. Oops, you're ruining my life. Squat down quickly. Shuan didn't know what happened, so he was pulled to the ground, and then a green light curtain fell, isolating the place. Almost instantly, after the cyan light curtain fell, several figures exuding a terrifying aura came at great speed from a short distance away, as if they were anxiously looking for something. Shuan felt helpless. It was really an unforeseen disaster. He had just arrived and had no idea what happened. In line with the idea that doing more is worse than doing less, Shuan waited quietly. When those people completely left, he stood up. And when he turned around and saw the person behind him for the first time, he couldn't help but have a look of surprise in his eyes. It was a girl who seemed to be only 17 or 18 years old. She has long silver hair like a waterfall, skin like snow, and wears a long dress that looks like leaves and flowers. She was leaning nervously against the wall and sticking her head out. After watching the departing figure walk away, she breathed a sigh of relief. His slender palms kept patting his towering chest. Turning her head, she looked at the dumbfounded Shuan with a picture-like pure and beautiful appearance, her sparkling eyes narrowed as if she could smile and said, Hi, hello, my name is Lillian. Looking at the girl with a beautiful smile in front of him, Shuan didn't react for a moment. He has seen a lot of beauties. Yi Qingru back then and Shangguan Ruonan not long ago were both top-notch women. But the girl in front of her had a delicate and picturesque face, smiling eyes as bright as stars, and a holy aura surrounding her body. She is stunningly beautiful, and it seems that all the words of praise that can be said about her are not exaggerated. Hey, what are you looking at? Lillian's white and slender little hands shook in front of Shuan's eyes, with a look of curiosity on her face. She didn't seem to know how much impact her appearance would have on people. Ahem. Looking at Lillian, whose eyes were as clean as a baby. Shuan blushed, coughed twice, changed the subject and asked, "What race are you from? It shouldn't be human race, right? Except for the long silver white hair, Lillian is basically the same as a human. But the clothes made of leaves and flowers are far different from those of human beings. I am from the Light Elf clan, but I am a holy elf, the only holy elf in the world." Lillian patted her chest with her little hands, a look of pride on her face. The Queen Mother told her that the holy elf is a unique existence in the world. Light Elf. Shuan relaxed his guard after hearing this. The Light Elves are considered a neutral race and have no conflicts with the human race. But when he heard the word holy elf, Shuan's eyes showed doubts. There are many branches of the elves, but he has never heard of the holy elves. However, such a rare elves should have a high status in the elves, right? Since your blood is so precious, didn't your elders follow you? Since they were not a hostile race and they had to wait for Ji Yuli's arrival, Shuan started chatting with interest. Apart from hostile races, this was the first time he saw other alien races. Shish. Hearing this, Lillian looked around cautiously with her big eyes, and then whispered, "Don't tell others, I ran away secretly, and no one found out about it." Seeing Lillian's proud expression, Shuan was a little speechless. He was still running away with the protection of his elders. "I really have never experienced any beating from society." On the contrary, it was Lillian who waved her fist and said angrily, "My mother and the others are too much. They won't even let me out of the house. For more than 400 years, I'm going to be suffocated to death. I don't allow other elves to play with me. It's too boring to look at the holy tree all day long." Shuan was stunned when he heard that Lillian was actually over 400 years old. This looks just like adulthood, doesn't it? But he also understood at this time why Lillian looked so ignorant of the world. It has been a full 400 years since his birth. He has been facing a tree all day long, and his heart is as pure as that of a baby. "That's not right. How did you come to trade the secret realm when there are so many strong men from the elves looking after you?" Shuan asked in confusion. "Trading secret realm? I don't know." Lillian looked at Shuan with innocent eyes. "That day, I was looking at the sacred tree in a daze, and a shiny stone suddenly appeared. I accidentally crushed it and was brought down here." Shuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard this. What a coincidence. Millions of keys to the secret trading realm are randomly distributed to all the worlds every year. One of them actually landed right in front of Lillian, who had been trapped for 400 years. "How is it? Is the outside world different from what you think?" Shuan asked with a half-smile. A little princess who is not familiar with the world is bound to run into obstacles everywhere without the care of her elders. Thinking about it, Lillian already regretted running away from the elves at this time, right? But who would have thought that when Lillian heard this, her big eyes suddenly lit up. "Wow, let me tell you, it's so much fun out there. There are races with horns on their heads, deer with wings, and many, many things I have never seen before." As she spoke, Lillian waved her little hand, and a large piece of stuff fell to the ground. They were handfuls of dazzling treasures, including oars, hairpins, and weapons. Lillian, as if she was showing off her doll to her friends, pointed to the thing on the ground proudly and said, "Look, I bought a lot of things. I heard from the boss that these things are rare treasures. Lillian is so smart, I just bought them all." As she spoke, Lillian held her head high and said proudly, "When I go back this time, I wonder if my mother will say I'm stupid." Looking at the treasures all over the floor, Shuan was also shocked. But when he opened the Eye of Delirium, his expression suddenly became weird. The aura emitted by these treasures is very thick, and the bright treasure aura is even more dazzling. Even the insides of these treasures are filled with the breath of time. However, these treasures that exude powerful aura, are all fakes. The seller's technique is very magical. Even the inside of the baby is deliberately fake. Let alone ordinary people, even some strong people can't tell the difference unless they look carefully. But under Po Wang's eyes, the texture and origin of these treasures are clearly visible, and they are nothing more than junk. Looking at Lillian, who was still complacent, Shuan asked hesitantly, "How much did these? How much did you spend?" Lillian tilted her head, doubts in her eyes. "What is money?" As she spoke, she said with a sudden smile, "Are you talking about this kind of stone?" Lillian flicked her wrist, and a spiritual stone emitting flawless light appeared in her hand. These things are very cheap. They only cost 6 or 7 stones in total. Shuan was stunned, so the seller was so conscientious. He only wanted 6 or 7 spiritual stones. But when he saw the spirit stone in Lillian's hand, his eyes suddenly widened. High-quality spiritual stone. Spiritual stones are divided into 4 levels based on their quality: low grade, medium grade, top grade, and top grade. 100 pieces of low-grade spiritual stone can only be exchanged for 1 medium-grade spiritual stone, and 100 pieces of medium-grade spiritual stone can only be exchanged for 1 high-grade spiritual stone, and so on. In other words, 1 high-grade spiritual stone requires 10,000 low-grade spiritual stones, which is equivalent to 10,000 academic credits. You spent 60,000 to 70,000 spiritual stones on these rags. Shuan's voice rose. Even if it wasn't his own money, he was so heartbroken that he couldn't breathe. Hey, these are not rags, they are treasures. Lillian wrinkled her nose in dissatisfaction. Shuan shook his head feebly, looked at these treasures with delusional eyes, picked up a hairpin, and his energy and blood exploded along with the cracks in the object. Click. Suddenly, the long hairpin that emitted dense light was filled with cracks, and the precious light dispersed, revealing its ordinary nature. This is just a relatively hard stone and a polished hairpin. Lillian. Sigma, circled dot operator hollow down pointing triangle circled dot operator, A. Obviously, you were tricked. Shuan shrugged, looked at Lillian who was crying without tears, and couldn't help but ask. What else did you buy? Lillian looked shocked and about to cry. Please help me see if these are all fake. As he said this, many fancy babies appeared on the ground. Shuan looked at it and shook his head, but when he saw a concentric lock, he was stunned. Shuan took the concentric lock in his hand. It was a pure white concentric lock that was only about the size of a thumb. This lock is very strange, with many complex lines engraved on it. The whole lock is white but dull. This lock has 2 sides, which seem to fit together tightly, with a small gap in the middle. Can this be opened? Shuan was very interested. His delusional eyes could not see through this concentric lock. Thinking like this, he used both hands to separate the lock. Hey, that person, I didn't buy this concentric lock. It was given to me by my mother. No one can open it. Lillian saw this and was about to say something, but suddenly. Click. A subtle sound sounded, and the concentric lock split into 2 and was opened directly. Lillian was stunned on the spot, her beautiful eyes fixed on Shuan, motionless. At the same time, Shuan's eyes showed horror. His calm sea of consciousness now stirred up huge waves, and his consciousness was once again pulled away from reality and came to an illusory space. The familiar boundless battlefield, the endless mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and the countless armies of gods and demons. Shocking shouts of killing resounded throughout the heavens, and countless gods and demons emitting terrifying auras stood tall. At the front was no longer the heroic man he saw before, but a beautiful woman with long silver hair. The woman was dressed in a noble moon-white dress and a white crown on her head, and her whole body exuded a holy light that seemed to illuminate the world. The woman was extremely beautiful, but her fair face was covered with tears. She didn't pay attention to the army of gods and demons surrounding her, and looked into the distance with sad eyes, not knowing what she was waiting for. The only holy elf in the world is indeed stunningly beautiful. But it's a pity that you are with the wrong person. Follow me. The elves should survive forever. In front of the army of gods and demons, a burly creature with 2 horns looked at the woman in white and said infatuatedly. When I become the emperor, I will make you my queen and enjoy the coming of all tribes. The woman looked as if she had heard nothing, and still looked into the distance, as if she had discovered something, and the sadness in her eyes gradually dissipated. Yi Hua, he is dead. No one will come to save you. Seeing the woman's appearance, the creature with 2 horns said angrily. Died. Yi Hua's dead eyes flashed and he murmured. You are wrong, you are all wrong, he will not die, he just left temporarily. When fate begins to turn, everyone will return. She seemed to have figured something out and looked at the gods and demons all over the sky. When the emperor comes again, he will settle matters with you. After hearing this, countless gods and demons seemed to have been stabbed in a sore spot, and they roared angrily. The monstrous killings shook the heavens, and countless stars shattered. Yi Hua smiled when he saw this, like 100 flowers blooming. The holy light from her body burst out, swaying through the heavens and sweeping across all realms. In the endless light, she raised her head to the sky and raised her arms, murmuring like a prayer. Reincarnation will last for thousands of years, waiting for my emperor to return. Her eyes looked into nothingness, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. When the prosperous times come, don't fail me. As the words fell, the endless light gradually dissipated, and the only Holy Spirit in the world was shattered like an illusion. There was only a small and exquisite concentric lock, and the light disappeared in a flash. The picture ended here and suddenly collapsed. Shu An's consciousness returned to his body and he looked at the two halves of the concentric lock in his hand with a confused look on his face. He couldn't figure out why he would see the ancient scene again after just opening a concentric lock. If the last experience was because he devoured the human emperor's soul, then what was the reason for this time? What is the relationship between the Holy Spirit and the human emperor? Couple, subordinate, or follower? But even if the holy elf was close to the original human emperor, it had little to do with him. When the wheel of fate turns, everyone will return. What do all these people mean? The human emperor, or other powerful human beings? Does it include people from all races? The wheel of fortune, does it mean the stone carving of destiny? But that doesn't make sense. Shu An frowned and felt confused. These two ancient scenes always gave him a sense of confusion in time and space. According to the memory of the reborn person, it is clear that he came from the future, and several events he experienced can also prove this. But the human emperor in the ancient scenes had too many connections with him unknowingly. The two magical powers given by the human emperor back then were now met by the holy elves. If the soul he devoured was the future human emperor, then when the ancient human emperor looked at him, was he looking at the future human emperor or himself? If those words of the ancient human emperor were spoken to himself, then who are he? The contemporary emperor. But if you are the current human emperor, then the result of being the human emperor in the future is not valid. Hiss. The messy thoughts gave Shu An a headache. In the past, present, and future, the interactions between the three generations of human emperors were complicated, making his feeling of separation in time and space even more severe. Forget it, there are too few clues to figure it out. No matter what, keep getting stronger, and everything will be revealed in 5 years. Shu An shook his head and got rid of those messy thoughts. Returning to reality, he looked up at Lillian in front of him, feeling a little hesitant. At this time, he was a little unsure. Was it really just a coincidence that he met Lillian? The key to the secret realm happened to fall among the elves, and it happened to be picked up by Lillian. Then by chance again, he met, just after entering the secret realm. He didn't think anything of it at first, but when Shu An thought about it, he suddenly felt that it was a coincidence. Lillian, I'm sorry, this thing seems to be broken. Shu An picked up the concentric lock that was divided into two halves and said awkwardly. No matter what, he did break this thing. Lillian. Looking at Lillian who was looking at him motionlessly, Shu An waved his hand and shouted. Ah, it's okay. After Lillian came to her senses, she waved her hands hurriedly and said, this is what it is. As she spoke, she picked up part of the concentric lock on the left. This. Shu An was stunned and looked at the remaining half in his hand. This half is yours. You must carry it with you. This is very important. Lillian finished speaking with a serious face, then looked at Shu An solemnly and said. Can you come back to the elves with me? Shu An was stunned. Why should I go to the elf clan? Lillian. Get married. Marry. Shu An was shocked when he heard this. What kind of marriage? Who will you marry? Why did you get married? Shu An was a little confused. He just accidentally met an elf and happened to open the concentric lock. How could he prevent himself from getting married? Marry me. Lillian pointed at herself, her eyes full of clarity. The Queen Mother said that whoever can open this lock will be my future husband. Shu An's head was filled with doubts. Do you know what getting married means? Lillian tilted her head and thought for a while, then shook her head and said simply, I don't know, the Queen Mother didn't tell me. Shu An sighed helplessly. Although Lillian is over 400 years old, her mind is no different from that of a child. Even if she wanted to ask something, she couldn't ask it. But thinking of that ancient scene, the holy elf should have something to do with the human emperor. Since the concentric lock was left by the holy elves in ancient times, the elves should know something. But no matter what it was, Shuan was not interested at this time. The war will begin in 3 years, and the human race will be destroyed in 5 years. Now he just wants to quickly improve his cultivation. Whether it's the ancient human emperor or the holy elf, we'll leave it to the future. Now, I have to go find my friends and I don't have time to go back to the elves with you. Besides, the outside world is very dangerous, you'd better go back quickly. Shuan said while looking around. The trading secret realm is very large, and this place seems to be a city. According to what Hu Li said, if the two of them teleported at the same location, there was a high probability that they were not far apart. However, in the secret area of the transaction, the communication jade talisman cannot be used, so I can only find it personally. Fortunately, the city is not big, so I should be able to find it soon. Hu Li said that the place where you can quickly improve your cultivation level is in this city. Shuan muttered, turned around and walked towards the street. Hey, don't leave. Seeing Shuan about to leave, Lillian followed him anxiously. Believe me, I didn't lie to you. The Queen Mother really said that. Moreover, the Queen Mother said that whoever can open this lock has lost something in the light world, and only you can take it away. Shuan paused, but still waved his hand. Let's talk about it later. He will go to the elves, but not now. With his current level of strength, it would be too dangerous to go to the elves. Lillian's mouth tightened when she saw this, knowing that she couldn't persuade Shuan, so she simply went wherever Shuan went. At the same time, the elves. Among all races, the elves are a large race with many branches, and the light elves are one of them. The light world where the light elves live is not very big, but the aura is very rich. There are strange flowers and plants everywhere, and towering trees can be seen everywhere. And in the center of the light world is a vigorous ancient tree that seems to pierce the sky and emit soft light. This ancient tree is the holy tree of the light elves. All light elves are born from the holy tree. However, the holy tree that had been emitting a faint light in the past suddenly shone brightly into the sky, and the endless holy light filled the entire light world. In an instant, all the light elves were shocked. Many figures exuding a tyrannical aura came to the holy tree for the first time, with expressions of surprise and confusion on their faces, not knowing what was going on. Don't panic, something went wrong in my practice. At this time, a gentle voice sounded, which made people feel extremely comfortable and close, making the elves who were shocked at the scene feel slightly relieved. Everyone didn't ask any more questions, they just bowed slightly towards the holy tree and then dispersed. At this time, inside the holy tree, a light elf with a beautiful face was looking at the core of the holy tree in a daze. King, Princess Lillian is missing. It was the holy tree that led to a key to the secret trading realm. An old elf bowed and spoke softly. The holy tree personally took action. Did the destined person appear? Nalia, the elf king of the lineage of light, had not regained consciousness for a long time. She could feel that the concentric lock left by the elf emperor was opened. King, will you send someone to bring Princess Lillian back? Once the identity of the holy elf is exposed, I'm afraid the entire elf clan will be in turmoil. Then, before he finished speaking, the old elf showed worry in his eyes. There are many branches of the elves, but there is a rule passed down from ancient times. As long as the holy elf appears, he will be the natural emperor of the elves, and all elves must support him. If the holy elves appeared in the past, the elves would of course follow the rules. But now, the elves are divided and fighting each other, and some ambitious people are trying to unify the entire elves and become the emperor. Now that the holy elves are born, will all elves follow the ancient precepts? No one can guarantee this. This is why, even though this generation of holy elves came to the light elves, they were hidden away by the snow, and only a few of them even knew about it. If the identity of the holy elf is exposed, the light elf lineage, and even the entire elf race, will undergo great changes. Supo, send a few people to protect the princess. Don't force her to be brought back. Since it is guided by the holy tree, it means that the holy elf is about to be born. Elf King Nalia waved her hand as if she was a little tired. Go ahead and leave me alone. The old Supo bowed slightly, turned and left the sacred tree. Nalia stayed there for a long time. After a while, She stepped lightly and came directly to the core of the holy tree. It was a tree heart that emitted bright light and was about 10 feet long. Nalia waved her hand gently, and rays of light flashed through. The heart of the tree opened from the middle, and there was still a space inside. A pair of dim and mighty armor stood quietly, and just by looking at it, one could feel the terrifying aura coming from the armor. The time has come to decide. Nalia looked at the armor in front of her in a daze. No one knows, the secret of the light elves is only passed down from the mouth of the elf king. The Holy One comes, the chains are parted, the armor is on and the prosperity comes. The human emperor has arrived, the elves are smiling, and they are on top of the 10,000 tribes peak. Nalia had only thought that these were just two simple songs. But in her generation, too many things have happened. 461 years ago, the Holy Spirit came to the world, and the first sentence of the song was verified. She thought it was a coincidence, but she didn't expect that 18 years ago, the core of the holy tree actually cracked, and there was a pair of armor inside. No one knew how shocked she was at that time. She didn't dare to tell anyone, but hurriedly restored the tree heart to its original state. The Holy One comes, the chains are parted, the armor is on and the prosperity comes. Two people appeared in the first song, and today, 18 years later, the concentric lock left by the elf emperor was really opened. Wearing armor, there's only one last sentence left before the prosperous age comes. Nalia looked into the distance with her deep gaze. The one who can pick up this armor is none other than the human emperor. If you are the contemporary human emperor, then I will bet on the lineage of light. If you weren't, Xuan, where are you going? Xuan, are you hungry? I'll treat you to some spiritual fruit. Wow, Xuan, look, that person has 3 eyes. Xuan came to the city and walked around in search of Ji Yuli while observing the creatures and strange resources for sale on the roadside with great interest. Lillian seemed to be settled with Ding Shu, and she was like a lark, constantly chirping along the way. Xuan didn't find it annoying. After all, the beauty was by his side, and it was very pleasing to the eye. However, Lillian, who is not familiar with the world, can always make some people stare angrily, just like the creature with 3 eyes. Elf, what are you talking about? The people from the 3-eyed clan glared angrily, and when they saw Xuan chuckle, they even said coldly, "Does a person with a small bone forging realm have the right to laugh at me?" Xuan was stunned, and then seriously pulled Lillian down in front of him. "Lillian, don't you understand that you can't laugh at others casually? This is very impolite behavior. Even if he is ugly, it's not his fault. It's because his father is ugly and his grandfather is ugly, so that's why. The 3-eyed tribe is one of the hostile races of the human race. They are born with divine eyes and have amazing combat power. If he met the 3-eyed clan in the outside world, Xuan would turn around and leave without saying a word. But in this secret realm where no fighting is possible, Xuan just wanted to say, 'Brother, you still have to practice.'" Lillian did not hear the underlying meaning of Xuan's words, but took a serious look at the people of the 3-eyed clan, shook her head regretfully and said, "What a poor man, it's obviously not his fault. You." The popular member of the 3-eyed clan's eyes were red, especially Lillian's serious tone, which made him furious. But fighting was not allowed in this place, so he could only look at the two of them hatefully, turn around and leave. "Is he angry?" Lillian asked doubtfully. "No. He went to settle the score with his father." Xuan couldn't help but smile and shook his head. Sure enough, sincerity is the surefire way to break defenses. Not paying attention to these minor incidents, Xuan continued towards the center of the city. After a brief understanding, Xuan also understood what the so-called trading secret realm meant. Within this secret trading area, there are many natural cities, and these cities are all protected. Anyone who holds the key will be suppressed if they fight, and then driven out of the secret trading place. Of course, people without a key can also trade, but they cannot enter the city and can only do it outside the unprotected city. But there are too many gangsters in that place. If we don't have 2 brushes, we may lose everything. This trading secret realm is very large, and there are many cities. The city where Xuan is now is just a small city. If you want to leave here, you need to spend a lot of money to take the teleportation array, or walk to the next city based on your strength. Ji Yuli will most likely be waiting for him at the teleportation array. "Ah, it's you, old man, how dare you lie to others? While Shuan was deep in thought, Lillian's angry voice sounded. He turned around and saw Lillian standing in front of a stall, glaring at the stall owner. Human race. Shuan was stunned when he saw the stall owner. After shopping for so long, this was the first time he saw a human race. He was an old man, all dirty. There were many weapons and other things placed in front of the stall, all of which were glowing with light and looked extremely extraordinary. Shuan, those are the fakes he sold to me. Lillian pointed at the old man, her little face full of anger. Old man, pay for it. The old man was not afraid when he saw an acquaintance, but instead said with a smile. Elf, you rely on your eyesight when buying things. There is no reason to settle old scores when selling things. Lillian wanted to say something else, but Shuan pulled her gently. The old man was right. He was cheated because of his poor eyesight, and he couldn't blame others. Senior, you are very ruthless. You lied to a little girl of 60,000 to 70,000 spiritual stones. Shuan came to the stall and squatted down, looked at the things on display, shook his head and said. Hardly. The old man curled his lips and said angrily. If I'm ruthless, I'll let her take care of me. That is to say, she is an elf, and I am afraid that her family will come looking for her, otherwise. The old man shook his head and did not continue. The elf shocked him when he arrived. The shot is a top-grade spiritual stone, which is equivalent to 1 million low-grade spiritual stones. Seeing such a big deal, he didn't dare to accept it, knowing that he had met the little princess of the elves. I'm afraid that the opponent I've tricked will be too miserable, and someone will find me, and I won't be able to commit the same crime among the elves in the future. If it were a hostile race of the human race, no matter what he cared about, they would have deceived them into nothing. Hearing this, Shuan shook his head in confusion. Did he not expect that this old man was still a good person? He opened the eye of deception and planned to see if he could find something good. But when I glanced at it, I was speechless. Good guy, there are really not a lot of things. This is really a lie. Ha, the moment Shuan started to break his delirium, the old man raised his eyebrows. What a weird pupil technique. Boy, who is your master? Can you see through the authenticity of these things of mine? When Shuan's delusion-breaking eyes opened, the old man was horrified. With his cultivation level, he actually felt like he was being seen through. Fortunately, with the movement of his mind, the sense of spying was instantly blocked, but this still surprised him. You know, there are not many people in the human race who can give him this feeling. Turning the fake into the real, Gu Tiantong, what he got in his hands was not so easy to see through. Well, I can't see through it, so I won't buy it. Looking at the old man's eyes, Shuan felt something was wrong, so he turned around and pulled Lillian to leave. Not you, wait a minute. Gu Tiantong stepped in front of Shuan, waved his hand and said. Nothing is allowed here, don't be afraid, maybe you're elder and I will still be friends. You just need to tell me if your eyes can look directly at the source. If you can, how about I give you a fortune? Before Shuan could speak, Lillian's eyebrows suddenly stood up. Old man, do you want to bully him? Laugh. Little bits of holy light emerged from Lillian's body, and a terrifying wave filled the air. Lillian's dress, woven from trees and flowers, slowly turned silvery white, and the illusory crown above the heavenly spirit gradually solidified. Not only that, as Lillian became angry, her temperament suddenly changed, no longer innocent, but full of nobility and majesty. Holy elf! Gu Tiantong's eyes widened, and he hurriedly waved his sleeves to cut off the space here, immediately blocking outside exploration. Boom! The city shook, and a huge force appeared, trying to drive Lillian and the others out. Lillian, don't do it. At this time Shuan was also startled and hurriedly held Lillian's hand. He didn't want to be driven back to the secret realm as soon as he arrived. A key to the secret realm was very precious. That's right, little girl is nervous, I can't hurt you here. Gu Tiantong swallowed and stared nervously at the illusory crown on Lillian's head. Madhu, the Holy Spirit is actually born. If you want to abduct this little girl to the human race, why not tie the entire elves into a chariot? After Shuan's persuasion, Lillian finally stabilized, and the shocking aura of terror gradually subsided. Shuan breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Lillian with strange eyes. He didn't expect that the seemingly innocent elf could be so terrifying when angry. Lillian, you can't fight here, otherwise you will be expelled. Seeing Lillian, who was still angry, Shuan smiled and shook his head. You're not so angry, and it didn't cause us any damage. After hearing this, Lillian, who calmed down, also said with some confusion, I don't know why. When you see someone doing something bad to you, you feel very angry. I feel an indescribable anger. Shuan was shocked when he heard this and became a little silent. Lillian's concern made his heart warm. After all, no one in the world had ever been so kind to him for no reason. But he was a little confused. He didn't know whether this concern was for him or for the shadow of others that he carried with him. Boy, you have a way. Jiu Tiantong, who was on the side, looked at Lillian, then at Shuan, and after approaching, he whispered. This little girl is not simple. If you want to drag her into the human race, you will be doing a great job. Jiu Tiantong had also heard some of the legends about the holy elves. The born elf king, as long as the holy elf comes to the world, the elf race will be unified. The elves, just one branch, is very powerful. How strong is the entire elves? Nowadays, the human race is besieged on all sides. If the elves can be pulled into the human camp, it will definitely be an extremely powerful boost. Senior, you are mistaken. We only met on the first day. Shuan shook his head, there was no joy on his face. Although he is not a good person, he cannot deceive someone who is so simple and trusts him so much. Shuan, this old man is not a good person. Let's go back to the elves. After we get married, we will go out to play. When the time comes, let the queen follow, so no bad guys will dare to bully you. Lillian looked at Jiu Tiantong warily and held on to Shuan's sleeve tightly. Mary, hearing this, Jiu Tiantong opened his mouth wide and looked at Shuan dumbfounded. Is this the first time we met? You said. Senior, farewell. Seeing this, Shuan shook his head without saying anything, turned around and left. But at this moment, a group of 7 or 8 aliens exuding a terrifying aura came towards them. These aliens are tall, their bodies are like lava, and they exude an extremely hot aura. Jiu Tiantong, you humans have such sharp noses, you know I can't hide anything from you. One of the foreigners in the leader said lightly, looking at Jiu Tiantong with a scrutinizing gaze. Caddis, does this secret realm belong to your Balrog clan? Where do I want to go? Why don't I report it to you? Seeing the person coming, Jiu Tiantong took a step forward and protected Shuan and the others behind him. Haha, it's useless even if you humans come. The ruins are full of obstacles. Unless you have a map or someone to guide you, it will be difficult to move forward. We, the Fire Demon tribe, have joined forces with the other 7 major races to completely seal off the ruins. No one is allowed to approach. Looking at Jiu Tiantong, Caddis smiled disdainfully. So what if you hide here, you'll just come back empty-handed in the end. Unless you call all the strong men from one of the 3 realms of the human world, do you dare? Ha ha ha. Jiu Tiantong's face looked a little ugly when he heard this. Not long ago, the human race received news that people from the Flame Demon tribe and several other alien races frequently appeared in the trading secret realm. Later, after investigation, we learned that a ruin suspected to be the remains of a strong human race from ancient times were about to emerge. In order not to alert others, Jiu Tiantong came to the secret realm alone and hid in this small town, always paying attention to the progress of the ruins. He also secretly took a look, but as Caddis said, the ruins are full of obstacles and can be seen regardless of cultivation. No one can see clearly when entering. Only people with special talents can explore the ruins. This is why he was so excited when he saw Shuan's surgery. But because of the action just now, the people of the Fire Demon clan were alerted, and they were discovered. Now listening to Caddis' tone, it seemed that he had found a way to break open the ruins, which made him a little anxious. But there is no way. Now that the 3 regions of the human race are fighting, there are not enough manpower. Where can he find so many strong men? Do you have to watch the relics being taken away by aliens? Jiu Tiantong, I'll wait for you at the ruins to see if you dare to come. Accompanied by a burst of laughter, Caddis led the people of the Balrog tribe away. No, we have to find a few people. Even if you can't grab it, you can't let the Fire Demon clan get it. Jiu Tiantong's face was gloomy and he was thinking quickly in his mind. It's impossible to scare people in the Lintian territory. Rivers of blood flow there every day, and the strong human race cannot leave. The spiritual realm is also quite difficult. There is a mixture of fish and dragons there, and every move of the strong human race is probably being monitored. Daxia territory. The Great Shah territory is fine. I heard a few days ago that the Blood God clan suffered a lot of losses. They even lost their ancestors. It shouldn't be too stressful. Then call Zhou Wuyuan over. I'm looking for Lao Sha. What others say? Gu Tiantong muttered and was about to start shaking people. But Shuan, who was listening on the sidelines, was stunned. Good guy, this old man is still talking about familiar people. Did he just blame him wrongly? Senior, is it true that you just said you would give me a fortune? Shuan asked cautiously. What's wrong? Do you know how to trust me now? It's too late. That place is surrounded. Even if I take you there secretly, I won't be discovered. Gu Tiantong glanced at Shuan and said angrily. Shuan's pupil skills are very special, and he may be able to see through obstacles, but at this time he has been exposed, and the Fire Demon clan has already been on guard. Going now is almost like throwing yourself into a trap. Maybe it's okay. Suddenly, Gu Tiantong rolled his eyes, a smile appeared on his lips and said. It's okay to call a few people to seduce them and then quietly enter the ruins. Thinking of this, Gu Tiantong looked at Shuan and asked. Boy, did you agree that when I ask you to come with me, don't be afraid? How about you tell your elders to avoid blaming me in the end? This matter is still somewhat dangerous. Elder, Shuan shook his head. Where did he come from as an elder? Hey, that's not right, he also has someone to support him now. Senior, why don't you send a message to my master? Shuan said. Which one is your master? Let's talk first. I don't know ordinary people. You'd better find someone powerful. This was not Gu Tian Tongchui. The people he knew were all strong men of the human race. It should be considered awesome. Shuan was also a little unsure and said, Senior, do you know Su Changli? That's my master. After joining the perfect department, Shuan naturally asked Ji Yuli who the department head was. Although he had never seen it, he heard from Ji Yuli that the head of the perfect department was a ruthless person and very protective. Since he has joined the perfect department, of course he can be considered the disciple of the head of the perfect department. However, when Gu Tiantong heard the words, Su Changli, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly and he looked at Shuan with strange eyes. Su Changli is your master. The Su Changli from Daxia region. Shuan was delighted. Yes, does Senior know him? Know him. When Gu Tiantong heard this, his expression was a little weird, some wanted to laugh, and some were furious. That means you are a disciple of the Perfection Department of 10,000 Races School. Shuan was stunned and nodded. He didn't expect that Gu Tiantong knew so clearly. Horse riding. Who would have known that when Gu Tiantong saw Shuan nodding, he cursed angrily. You have joined the 10,000 Races Academy, but you don't know who I am. How does that boy Guan Wenshan do things? Does he think that I am dead? Looking at the furious Gu Tiantong, Shuan shrank his neck and asked cautiously, Who are you? I am. Gu Tiantong pointed at his nose and shouted. I am the director of 10,000 Races Academy, Gu Tiantong, whom even my students don't know. Shuan looked at the old man in front of him in confusion, feeling that the world was too small. I went out for a walk and unexpectedly bumped into the director of 10,000 Races Academy, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. President, what a coincidence. Shuan couldn't help but shook his head. Ji Zhen, you dare to come to the secret realm to trade in the bone forging realm. You are very courageous. Who gave you the key to the secret realm? Guan Wenshan or that guy Zhang Yuan? Seeing the students from his own school in the secret realm far away from the battlefield in the heavens, Gu Tiantong felt that this fate was really wonderful. However, it feels good to meet an old friend in a foreign country, especially a junior of my own. It was given by Governor Guan. Senior brother Ji Yu Li and I came here together. Shuan said truthfully after hearing the words. After knowing the true identity of the person in front of him, his vigilance had long since disappeared. The founder of the 10,000 Races Academy, this name is so famous among the human race. Ji Yu Li. After Gu Tiantong thought for a while, he said with a sudden look on his face. That guy who almost brought down his classmates 2 years ago, right? Shu An's mouth twitched slightly when he heard this. Ji Yu Li's reputation was so famous that even the governor knew about it. Haha, Ji Yu Li asked me to see where it was. I found it. Ji Yu Tiantong closed his eyes, and his vast spiritual consciousness instantly swept across the entire ancient city. After a moment, he opened his eyes, waved his sleeves and led Shu An and Lilian away from the place. When Shu An opened his eyes again, he suddenly saw a familiar figure from behind. Senior brother, Shu An shouted. Ji Yu Li turned his head hurriedly when he heard the words, but what he saw was an old smiling face. He hurriedly made a long jump and cursed without thinking. Where did this bad old man come from? Stay away from me. Ji Yu Tiantong's old face darkened, and half of the good mood he had just had disappeared immediately. Shu An on the side covered his face when he heard this and mourned for Ji Yu Li for a moment in his heart. You fool, you don't know me either. Ji Yu Tiantong asked in a breathless and angry voice. Only then did he realize that he had failed miserably as the governor. I worked my butt off outside to earn resources for the school, but ended up losing my good reputation to that guy Guan Wenshan. In the future, we must build a big statue at the entrance of the school. When Ji Yu Li heard this, he glanced at the old man in front of him suspiciously. It looks familiar. Where have you seen it? Ji Yu Li frowned and thought hard for a long time before patting his thigh and saying with bright eyes. Wo Ri, Ji Yu Tiantong, Chief Ji Yu, right. Ha ha ha, I finally saw a living person today. Come on, Shu An, and ask for a message from the governor. Prefect Ji Yu is a man of great influence in our country, one that ordinary people can't see. With that said, Ji Yu Li stepped forward with a smile on his face and took out his communication jade talisman. Ji Yu Tiantong, who was still very angry at first, found that he couldn't get angry anymore when faced with Ji Yu Li's few words. And there is also a feeling of satisfaction. Haha, I really have such a great reputation. Of course, who in our school doesn't know you? Well, it's just a false name, it's just a false name. Looking at the two people chatting happily, Shu An's face was full of admiration. Ji Yu Li's ability to beat snakes with a stick is something that most people really can't learn. It was a false alarm. Fortunately, I reacted quickly. But who would have thought that Ji Yu Li was also secretly wiping his sweat at this time? Fortunately, he had seen the portrait of Governor Ji Yu in the governor's office, otherwise he would have offended a big shot today. As for what he just said, you won't even believe it, okay. Shu An, their smiles are so fake. Lilian, who had been watching quietly, curled her lips and whispered. Although the voice was low, no one present was a simple person, so how could he not hear it? Both Ji Yu Tiantong and Ji Yu Li's faces froze, they couldn't pretend any longer. Shish, you don't understand, this is human nature. Hearing this, Shu An hurriedly pulled Lilian and said in a serious voice. This can quickly build relationships between strangers, and you can learn from it in the future. Lilian nodded thoughtfully after hearing this. Shu An, this is. Looking at Lilian, Ji Yu Li's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Even though he was not interested in other women, he had to admit that Lilian's appearance was stunning. Haha, hello, my name is Lilian. I have heard about senior brother Ji Yu Li for a long time, but today I finally saw him alive. Shu An, come quickly. Brother Ji Yu Li is usually not seen. Come and ask for a message. With a smile on her face that couldn't be more fake, Lilian greeted warmly. Ji Yu Li, who was originally smiling, suddenly turned stiff and opened his mouth, but he didn't know how to answer it. Embarrassed toes were about to leave the 3 bedrooms and 1 living room. Ji Yu Tiantong next to him also has a very wonderful expression. The holy elf is well deserved. Lilian, seeing that everyone was numb, Shu An hurriedly pulled Lilian back, looked at the dark-faced Ji Yu Li, and laughed dryly. Senior brother, don't mind, she's not very good at dealing with people. Haha, your friend is quite special. Ji Yu Li nodded, not knowing whether he was crying or laughing. This eloquent man was defeated so completely for the first time. How about Shu An, am I a fast learner? Lilian, who came to Shu An, had a proud look on her face, as if she was coming to praise me. No, It's called human nature, but it's an accident of human nature. Ah, aren't they the same? Certainly not. Okay, if you say no, then it's not. Ji Yuli looked at the two people talking to each other, and came to Ji Yu Tiantong's side with a strange look on his face. Prefect, what's going on? Something's not right between the two of them. Hearing this, Ji Yu Tiantong had an uncontrollable smile on his lips. It's good that something is wrong, it's good that something is wrong, it's finally our turn to be rich and powerful. Shuan was still explaining to Lilian with a headache. But when he turned his head, Ji Yu Tiantong and Ji Yuli were watching quietly with anti-smiles on their faces. Shuan, don't get me wrong, I'm teaching Lilian how to behave, there's no other meaning. Seeing this, Shuan hurriedly explained. Haha, I understand. Ji Yuli looked like someone who had come before, with a knowing smile on his face. Chief Gufu. As soon as Shuan spoke, Ji Yu Tiantong smiled and waved his hand. Haha, it's okay, I understand, young man. 3 black lines appeared on Shuan's forehead, you know what? Seeing this, Ji Yu Tiantong came to Shuan and whispered. This is a good opportunity. Seize it, boy. Once the identity of your little girlfriend is exposed, the people lining up to get married will be able to overwhelm the entire elves. After speaking, Ji Yu Tiantong patted Shuan's shoulder heavily and said nothing more. Okay, I don't have much time. I have to go back to Daxia territory soon. I can't delay the things at the ruins. Speaking of business, Ji Yu Tiantong put away the smile on his face, looked at Shuan and said seriously. Don't run around during this period, just wait for me in the secret realm. When I call someone and find a good opportunity, I will come to you as soon as possible. Shuan nodded solemnly when he heard this. Don't worry, I'll wait for news from the governor. Ji Yuli next to him was a little confused, but he didn't ask any more questions. He just reminded. President, the communication in the secret realm cannot be used. Shuan and we will most likely not be in this city during this period. How will you find us then? The trading secret realm is very strange. The city can isolate everything from the outside world, and all communication methods cannot be used. Unless it was like Ji Yu Tiantong's search for Ji Yuli, sweeping the entire city with his powerful spiritual consciousness. But obviously, Shuan, Ji Yuli and others will not just stay in one city. Little things. Ji Yu Tiantong waved his hand carelessly, then looked in one direction and cursed. Stop eating so much, come and find me. At this time, in a restaurant in the city, a little fat man was eating noodles with a face full of intoxication. The noodles were very strange, actually emitting a jet black light, and a rich aroma filled the entire hotel. But as soon as the little fat man took a bite, he heard loud curses ringing in his ears. The little fat man was trembling all over. He didn't have time to taste it carefully. He drank the noodles in his hands with a look of pain on his face, and then walked out of the restaurant without stopping. After a short time, the little fat man came to Ji Yu Tiantong panting. Old teacher, what? Why is it so urgent? Shuan and Ji Yuli looked at each other with strange expressions on their faces. Governor Ji Yu actually accepted a disciple. Tang Yu, the disciple I accepted in the spirit realm not long ago, is very suitable to pass on my mantle. With him following me, I can find you at any time. After a brief introduction, Ji Yu Tiantong turned around and went back to Daxia territory to move people without much delay. Seeing this, Lilian on the side waved her fist angrily and muttered. Old man, the spirit stone you lied to me hasn't been returned to me yet. Although the voice was small, Ji Yu Tiantong's footsteps paused, and then he laughed loudly and said. I will return it to you when you and Shuan get married, and I will prepare a generous gift at that time. Not just me, the entire human race will prepare a generous gift. Hearing this, Lilian nodded heavily with bright eyes. Old man, you can't lie this time. Ha ha ha. Along with a burst of hearty laughter, Ji Yu Tiantong disappeared. Seeing this, Shuan raised his hand and then put it down again. The picture became darker and darker. Ji Yuli beside him quietly gave a thumbs up. Shuan was finding a wife much faster than him, and it was time to talk about marriage. Only Tang Yu looked at the strangers in front of him with a confused expression. His unreliable master didn't even tell him their names. Shuan, he smells so good. After Gu Tiantong left, Lillian sniffed and pulled Shuan quietly, her eyes shining brightly. Ji Li and Shuan also smelled the smell of the little fat man. It was a very appetizing fragrance. It's been a long time since I've had black yao noodles, a special delicacy of the Tinder tribe. Ji Li licked his lips, his throat was rising and falling, obviously he was aroused by greed. Brother, you are very knowledgeable. It just so happens that I haven't eaten enough yet. Why don't we take a bowl and talk about it? Speaking of delicious food, Tang Yu's eyes lit up and he hurriedly suggested. No one refused, and Shuan and others happily came to a place called Tinder Noodle House. While they were still there, several people briefly introduced each other, and the young people present quickly became familiar with each other. Shuan also told the two of them the purpose of Gu Tiantong's departure and the ruins. The remains of the strong human race. After listening to this, Ji Li said with excitement in his eyes. I heard that in ancient times, the human race was also a powerful clan that dominated the country, but for some reason the inheritance was cut off and not even a single word was left behind. Even the ancestral land of Blue Star has been sealed, and all traces of ancient times have been covered. Maybe in these ruins, we can find news about the disappearance of the ancient human race. Shu Jing listened quietly and sighed in her heart. Based on the pictures I have experienced, I guess that the ancient human race was more than just a powerful race. That is a royal family that can rule the heavens and be worshipped by all races. In fact, not only is the inheritance of our human race cut off, but all the news from the ancient times of all races is also cut off. It's just that they are much better than us. Their stars have not been sealed, and their inheritance has not been cut off and they can continue to practice. But our human race can only start all over again. Tang Yu has been following Gu Tiantong during this period and knows some of the secrets. He continued. Actually, not one, but 4 ruins appeared during this period. Because the human race is busy defending the interface, the other 3 have been quietly taken away by the alien race. The aliens must have discovered something in the ruins and have been looking for clues about the ruins everywhere. Shuan and Ji Li were silent after hearing this. The situation of the human race is already very difficult. If the alien race obtains something from the ancient ruins, the human race will face a great dilemma. Therefore, this relic must be fought for, and at least we must know what the alien race's purpose is. Here comes the face. While a few people were meditating, 4 bowls of noodles exuding black light were brought up by a creature covered in fluff. Smell good. Shuan and the others' eyes were bright, and they immediately started eating with their bowls in hand. The noodles are very chewy, and the black noodles are actually covered with a special sauce. With one bite, the rich aroma exploded in the mouth. The smoothness of the noodles and the fragrance of the sauce made several people almost swallow it with their tongues. Shuan smells so good, I want to have a bowl. Lillian was the first to finish eating, and after finishing the meal, she looked at Shuan eagerly, obviously not eating enough. She had lived for more than 400 years, and this was the first time she knew that there were such delicious things in the world. I also want. Tang Yu and Ji Li put down their bowls at the same time and said in unison. Boss, 4 more bowls of black noodles. Shuan shouted loudly and ordered 4 more bowls. He just made a fortune some time ago, and now he is extremely wealthy. Just eat 4 bowls of noodles, how much can you spend? But as soon as he had this idea, his expression suddenly changed. This is. Feeling the sudden burst of energy in his body, Shuan hurriedly activated the blood magic technique. Immediately, strong essence fire emerged and began to quench the bones in his palm. But the essence fire that appeared this time was different from the past. The flame was actually wrapped in a faint black light. In just a short moment, under the burning of the weird essence fire, the 2 small bones in the palm became as clear as blood crystals. Haha, do you feel it? Seeing Shu An's surprised look, Ji Li smiled and said. Being able to open a restaurant in the secret trading realm is not just about selling rice. Just like in this black yao noodles, both the noodles and the sauce are made of precious spiritual materials and are prepared using special secret methods. This bowl of noodles will not only allow you to enjoy it, but also allow you to quickly improve your cultivation. As he spoke, Ji Li said with a look of disgust. Look at people, those in the alchemy department are just resting on their laurels and don't want to innovate. That's like Ju Hua's elixir, even if it's given to dogs, it won't be eaten. Shuan shook his head in confusion. Although Ji Yuli said it was an exaggeration, compared with the elixir, the cooking made by this was indeed better. Senior brother, you said that the way to quickly increase my strength is to eat. Thinking of what Ji Yuli said before the secret realm, Shuan asked curiously. How could it be? This special diet is just one of them. Ji Yuli shook his head and said, the effect of this diet is obvious for the first time. If you keep eating it, it won't be as effective. Therefore, it must be combined with it. After finishing the noodles in a while, we will go to the corner city, where your strength will improve by leaps and bounds. As he said that, Ji Yuli had a playful smile on his face. It was a good place there. When Lin Chengyuan took him there, he almost died there. Senior brother, what is Zhao Cheng doing? Shuan asked confusedly after hearing this. As soon as these words came out, before Ji Yuli could speak, Tang Yu on the side shrank his neck and said with lingering fear. There are a group of crazy cultivators there, and they are also a group of terrible gamblers. Shuan was stunned. Madman, gambler. Tang Yu explained. The origin of Horn City is because there is a magical race there, the Horn Clan. The Horned Clan is naturally aggressive and prefers to be fair. However, they somehow angered the Abyss Demon Clan and were almost wiped out. In the end, only a handful of them were left, no more than 1,000. In order to avoid the demons, they moved their whole family to the secret trading realm, and actually became the lord of a city. Because they have a very special racial treasure, the gladiatorial arena. The cultivation of all creatures in the arena will be suppressed to the same level, and in the arena, no matter how hard they are beaten, they will not die. Hearing this, Shuan couldn't help but said in surprise, you won't die. When Ji Yuli heard the words, he waved his hand and said, it's not that you won't die, but there is a special rule in the arena that can resurrect the dead. But it is not without cost. Each time you die, your cultivation level will be reduced a lot, and the great terror between life and death may leave you with nightmares and damage your martial arts heart. There are many people who thought they were very strong on stage, but were killed, and their martial arts hearts were broken. Although you won't die, the price of failure will be heavy. After saying that, Ji Yuli smiled again and said, but this is the charm of the gladiatorial arena. It allows you to confidently and boldly break through yourself in the limit of life and death. What's the point of losing? As long as you can survive the horror of life and death, the quenching of your martial heart will be unmatched by anything. It is precisely because of this that the excitement of the gladiatorial arena resounds throughout the sky, and almost all strong men have experienced it when they were young. Tang Yu beside him nodded and continued. There are two things that are really attractive about the gladiatorial arena. One is what Brother Ji Yu said, hone yourself in the real life and death. And the second point is to press the treasure. For everyone who participates in the battle, the Horn Clan will start the game based on their winning rate. Everyone can beat the person they like to win. Such rules have attracted many gamblers to settle in Corner City for a long time and make a living from this. No one is afraid that there will be something fishy here, because the Horned Clan is naturally aggressive and has fairness engraved in their bones. All races can certify this. There are countless people pressing treasures every day, and the daily flow of spiritual stones is an astronomical figure. Xu Jing listened quietly, and her heart suddenly became hot. Arena, what a great place. You have to go through life and death every day, and you don't have to worry about actually dying, and your opponents are all people with the same level of combat power as you. In such an environment, it is difficult to improve your cultivation level. Hey Xuan, my first hope of getting rich is entirely on you. Ji Yuli winked at Xuan and joked. I don't care about anything else. You must win the first game in the arena. I plan to put all my wealth on you. Whether I can make a lot of money this time depends on you. This time Ji Yuli came to the secret realm for two purposes, to find some spiritual realm combat skills that suited him. In one, it was to find a weapon. His sunset bow was lost in the secret realm, and without the bow in hand, his combat power was actually reduced. However, from his perspective, ordinary combat skills and weapons would definitely be looked down upon, so there were only two choices. One is to spend a lot of money to buy, and the other is to gamble on stones and bet on your luck to get a huge price. But obviously, he gave up on the uncertain choice of betting on stones and planned to buy it honestly. But this way, his spiritual stones would be stretched thin. However, Ji Yuli had already thought of a way and planned to make a big bet. He has seen Xu An's strength, and since he is a newbie with no record, he will definitely win the first battle in the arena. By then, ha ha ha, everything will be done. Thinking of this, Ji Yuli was already smiling, as if he had seen a lot of spiritual stones coming into his account. Brother Ji Yu, is the bet so big? Tang Yu licked his lips and glanced at Xu An, feeling a little unsure. There are a large number of battles every day in the arena. Many of these races, like Ji Yuli, would bring them to the arena to gamble when they saw a member of their own race who was extremely talented and powerful. Because he is a newcomer, he has no record in the arena and is completely blank. In addition, he knew that the people he led were extremely powerful and would definitely win the first round, so he directly put all his wealth on it. But there are many overturns in things like this. For example, if you meet a very strong player, or you meet a strange boss who comes to fry fish, you will lose all your money. But no matter what, this kind of bet has a certain degree of certainty, and it is also a real opportunity to get rich overnight. Tang Yu and Xu An are not familiar with each other, and they don't know Xu An's true strength. But seeing Ji Yuli being so confident, he was a little tempted. Should he also take a gamble? Hey, little fat man, don't say I didn't give you a chance. You've invited me to this meal, and I'll help you win something big when the time comes. After saying this, while Tang Yu showed hesitation, Ji Yuli directly pulled Xu An out and arrived outside the store in a blink of an eye. Xu An looked at Ji Yuli beside him and said with emotion and determination. Senior brother, don't worry, you trust me so much, I will definitely win the first game. When Ji Yuli heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Quickly go, you are fooling that little fat man, those bowls of noodles are very expensive. Hearing this, Xu An waved his hands nonchalantly and said, it's just a few bowls of noodles, it's no big deal if I ask for them. Ji Yuli glanced sideways at Xu An and said calmly, a bowl of noodles has 1,000 spiritual stones. Worry. After knowing the true prices of several bowls of noodles, Xu An immediately walked faster than Ji Yuli. At this time, they had walked a long way, but they could still vaguely hear the screams coming from behind. You fool, you tricked me. Asshole, 8,000 spiritual stones. You actually left me there by myself. That's money I've been saving for a long time. Xu An, you must help me win it back. After Tang Yu caught up with Ji Yuli and others, he was muttering angrily the whole way. 8,000 spirit stones, for him in the body casting realm, was a large sum. If he hadn't come from a decent family and had a powerful master, he would have been so uncomfortable that he would vomit blood. Allah, do you still have no cultivation resources if you follow the ancient leader? When Xu An comes on stage, just place a big bet and double your bet. Ji Yuli picked his teeth and said with a relaxed expression. Next to them, Xu An and Lily were still studying whether there were such delicious noodles in Jiaocheng. You fool, to put it lightly, I will be a pauper if I lose. Tang Yu muttered and cursed, but he was thinking about whether he should bet a big one later. As a few people chatted, they soon arrived at the teleportation array. After handing over a large amount of spiritual stones, several people came to Jiaocheng. Unlike the first small city, Corner City can be called a giant city. The majestic city gate is 100 feet long, and the towering wall cuts off the sky and the earth, and you can't see the edge at a glance. The whole city has a dark tone. It is not a boxy terrain, but like an octagonal cage, which is very distinctive. As soon as Xu An and others walked out of the teleportation array, a roaring noise suddenly came from the sky. A large number of creatures of all colors were running on the broad road, and everyone's face was filled with excitement and excitement. At the same time, in the center of the city, which was like an octagonal cage, crazy shouts shook the sky from time to time. Curses, encouragement, excitement, all kinds of sounds created this vibrant corner city. It's really lively. Looking at the huge crowd of people in front of him, Xu An secretly clicked his tongue. Lillian on the side saw the lively atmosphere and looked around excitedly. If she saw interesting creatures, she would tell Xu An as soon as possible. This is nothing. When you get to the real arena, you will know what it means to be crazy. The shouts there will instantly ignite your blood. Ji Yuli said, leading Xu An and others towards the center of the city. Let's go, let's go to the Horn clan to create an identity for you first. Just as a few people walked away, a group of figures shrouded in black robes suddenly appeared where they were standing. Mother-in-law, the princess is with a few humans. Do you want to bring her back? A man in black robe stepped forward and asked softly. It doesn't matter, the king just wants to protect the princess secretly, and there is no need to interfere in other matters. Su Po, who was leaning forward and leaning on a cane, looked at Lillian in the distance with a gentle look in her eyes. That was Lillian she had never seen before, full of curiosity and excitement about everything, with a happy smile on her face. She followed the man next to her closely, holding onto his sleeve with her little hands. When she encountered something she was interested in, she would share it with him as soon as possible. Is that the person destined by fate? The gentle smile on Su Po's face fell, and her eyes were full of scrutiny. From her perspective, the man looked unhappy. Just like a thief who is about to pick off the flower that she finally wanted to grow, she naturally carries a stereotype. Humph, you actually ignored the princess. Boy, you better have some real skills, otherwise even if you are destined to be a destined person, your mother-in-law will still beat you. Su Po knocked her cane and said in an unhappy tone. Don't be exposed, keep up with them. Wow Xuan, there is a new restaurant there, how about I treat you to dinner later? Xuan, look, there are two people quarreling there, it's so interesting. Hey Xuan, look there, those young ladies have no clothes on. Lillian's little mouth didn't stop along the way, and she kept talking to Xuan in curiosity and excitement. Xuan didn't care at first, but after hearing Lillian's last words, he hurriedly covered Lillian's eyes. Don't look around, that's not a good place. Xuan glanced at it from a distance, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. There was actually a brothel in this place. The naturally charming Maizu women, all scantily clad, stood at the door and smiled coquettishly at the passers-by on the street. Xuan, it's not a good place, why do you keep looking at it? Lillian tilted her head and looked at Xuan curiously. Where is? The stubborn Xuan turned his head with difficulty and quickly led Lillian away from this dangerous place. Ji Yu Li and Tang Yu followed behind, not knowing what they were talking about, and they heard evil laughter from time to time. Topics between men are always so simple. Not long after, Xuan and others arrived at the entrance of the venue where the first Zhao clan was to fight. The flow of people here is even greater, and creatures of all races can be seen here. But suddenly, Lillian let out a sigh and pointed to the place with the largest flow of people not far away. That old man is so strange. Why is he sitting in the middle of the road? Xuan and Ji Yu Li turned around and saw an old man in the middle of the road. The old man's beard and hair are all white, sitting cross-legged, and his whole body is shrouded in a white robe, making it difficult to see clearly. What is even more strange is that the creatures passing by pass directly through the old man's body, as if the old man is just an illusion and does not exist. Grandpa, where is the grandpa? Tang Yu also heard Lillian's words, but when he turned around, he looked confused. In his sight, there was no old man in the middle of the road. Let's go. Ji Yu Li and Xuan shouted at the same time, turned around and left. But the next moment, the void in front of Xuan, Lillian, and Ji Yu Li seemed to be distorted, swallowing the three of them directly. At this time, Xuan and the three of them were in different spaces, and there was no one around them except themselves. But at the same time, there was an old man sitting cross-legged in front of the three of them. Who are you? Why did you arrest me? After Ji Yu Li looked around, he looked at the old man in front of him and asked sharply. Although the words were fierce, Ji Yu Li's heart trembled. Being able to take action in the secret city and directly divide the space was something that not even Ji Yu Tiantong could do. The strength of the old man in front of him may have reached an extremely terrifying level. But he couldn't figure out why such a strong man would cause trouble to these juniors. Don't be nervous, I didn't arrest you, it was God's will. Anyone who can see me can ask me a question and they will leave here afterwards. The old man's face was unreal, but his gentle and kind tone did not sound like a bad person. God's will. When Ji Yu Li heard this, he looked at the old man. He was puzzled, but suddenly he seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes showed shock. He knew who he was meeting. The most mysterious race in the world, the Tianji clan. Rumor has it that the Tianji clan is extremely powerful, and their divination skills are unparalleled in the world, and they know the past and the future very well. However, this clan has exhausted all the secrets of heaven and harmed the fate of Tianhe. Therefore, even if the inheritance is long, there can always only be one person in a clan, and two people of the same clan cannot meet each other. In order to repair their clan's destiny, the Tianji clan traveled across the heavens, only to divine fortune for those who were destined to answer a question. No matter how outrageous the question is, even if you want to know the treasures buried in the heavens, the Tianji tribe will accurately tell you the location. All the tribes in the world and the endless powerful people are looking forward to meeting people from the Tianji tribe and changing their fate. But as the old man in front of me said, if God's will is not met, no one from the Tianji clan can be found even if he searches all the heavens. Ji Yuli never expected that such a lucky thing would happen to him. What question? After knowing the old man's identity, Ji Yuli's face began to look thoughtful. This is probably the last time he will see people from the Tianji tribe in his life, so this question is very important. Wealth, opportunity, or something else? After pondering for a long time, Ji Yuli had an idea in his mind. He looked at the old man and said with uncontrollable killing intent in his eyes, "Tell me the way to kill all the Shadow clan." Even though he just mentioned that race, Ji Yuli couldn't help but tremble all over. He will never forget the blood feud in which 7 members of his family were wiped out. He practiced hard, desperately searched for resources, and rejected Shangguan Ruonan's feelings, all for revenge. The Shadow clan was a powerful clan that was no less inferior to the Demon clan. He didn't know if he would ever have a day of revenge, but he never dared to forget it. Even if he dies, he will die on the road to destroying the Shadow clan. Kill the Shadow clan. The old man Tianji raised his head, with thousands of pictures flowing in his eyes. Time and space trembled, and the illusory river fell from the sky, as if to block something. But when the long river came into contact with the old man, it seemed to have touched the same kind of breath, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. But for a moment, the old man's eyes changed when he looked at Ji Yuli, and he saw some pictures of the future. Such a strong luck. He has the qualifications to become an emperor, but he is destined to be a king. No wonder, he has to give way to fate in this life, one of his right-hand men. The old man Tianji, who was still puzzled at first, suddenly saw something in his face as he didn't know what he saw again. "Senior, is there any way?" Seeing that the old man was silent for a long time, Ji Yuli asked anxiously. "Don't worry, the Shadow clan's energy has reached its end in this life." The old man looked at Ji Yuli and said with a chuckle, "Your luck is not in the Daxia territory, but in the spiritual territory. In half a year, a secret realm of inheritance will be opened in the spiritual territory. In the ancient Yi inheritance, there is nothing more suitable for you than him." Ji Yuli's expression condensed and he asked, "Can the inheritance of Yi help me destroy the Shadow clan?" The old man chuckled. "The sun can be shattered, and a mere clan can turn its hand around." When Ji Yuli heard this, he bowed solemnly to the end, unlike his usual playful expression. "If what the senior said is true, I will take great revenge on the younger generation. If the senior has any trust, I will do anything and everything." These words were very serious, but Ji Yuli didn't care. As long as he could get revenge, he was willing to do anything. "Good." The old man chuckled, and his body dispersed in the wind like light. And at the same time, time seemed to freeze. While answering Ji Yuli's question, Lillian on the other side was also being questioned by an old man. "But I don't have any questions to ask. Can't you just let me go?" Knowing that she could only leave after asking questions, Lillian said with some distress. The problem that is desired by the endless powerful men in the world has become a worry for Lillian. "My mind has not yet been opened, but I have developed a red heart." The old man smiled and shook his head, and then said, "Ask your heart. What your heart desires most and what you most want to happen is your question." Questioning your heart. Lillian tilted her head and thought for a moment, then her eyes lit up and she said, "Yes, Grandpa, when can Shuan and I get married?" Lillian didn't know what asking questions meant, but after the old man said it, this was the first thing she thought of. Marry. Time and space changed before the old man's eyes, and many pictures flashed in his eyes. After waiting for a while, he looked up at Lillian in silence. Girl, you were born to be the Empress in this life, but you are you, not her. Her thoughts should not affect you in this life. When you truly understand your destiny in this life, you can decide whether to get married. Remember, no one can control you, not even your former self. After saying that, Tianji looked up at Lillian. In other words, it was the figure behind Lillian that no one could see. The silver white dress, the holy crown, the tall figure and the beautiful appearance exude an aura of incomparable nobility. Tianji, long time no see. It seemed like a sigh came from distant time and space, and the beautiful illusory figure opened its eyes. It was a pair of wise, compassionate, and profound eyes. She looked the same as Lillian, but at first glance, she was very different from the innocent and simple Lillian. Yi Hua, why bother? As if he was familiar with his old friend, Tianji sighed softly and spoke. I just want to know an answer. Yi Hua looked at the space next door, which was in the direction of Xuan, with sadness in her eyes. I can't tell whether it's him or not. He has the aura of him about him, but it's completely different. I've been waiting for eternity, but I'm not willing to just give up. As he spoke, Yi Hua looked at Tianji and said in a pleading tone. Tianji, you know that, right? Tell me, is that him? If not, where is he? Tianji was silent. He knew the answer, but couldn't tell Yi Hua. While mastering powerful power, he must also follow some rules. Otherwise, heaven and earth will directly obliterate him. Sorry, I forgot your identity. Yi Hua smiled miserably, and then said firmly. It doesn't matter, I will know the answer soon. The saint comes, the locks are separated, the armor is worn and the prosperous age comes. The human emperor arrives, the elves smile. Along with a sad song, Yi Hua's figure disappeared. Only Lillian looked around curiously. She was wondering why she answered the question but didn't leave yet. Tianji smiled, then waved his hand gently, and the space in front of him collapsed. At the same time, Xuan on the other side also understood the identity of the old man in front of him. After frowning and thinking for a long time, I finally found the question I wanted to ask. But his question was a bit strange. Xuan looked at the old man in front of him with confusion in his eyes, and asked in an uncertain tone. Who I am. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.